Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to another live lawn care Q&A. My name is Ron Henry, and I'm here to help answer your lawn care questions. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. Super happy to have you here. The way this works is really simple. On your screen, you will see a chat box. And in that chat box, you can enter your question, concern, comment of the day, and I work through them in the order that they come in. Now, sometimes it's the answer, sometimes I do not. But either way, we have a great time talking about lawn care and sometimes other life topics. All right, guys. So as always, we're coming to you guys live with YouTube being our primary platform. We're also streaming on Meta, on Facebook, and on Instagram. For Instagram, we're back on the phones. For folks on Instagram, I'm going to have to probably restart the stream a couple of times because they've changed it to where you can only stream for an hour or so on Instagram, which, sometimes is not enough because I can be long-winded. What can I say? So if we need to restart it, just bear with me. I'll kick off another one. And then sorry for the folks on X, Twitter, you guys, for the time being, you're not going to get a stream. So if you want to watch, come over on YouTube. All right, guys. So it's a great time, man. We are into August. We are into, late summer, getting into late summer. Fall will be here before you know it. So I figured I would take tonight, or at least the beginning of tonight, and take some time to talk about weed control, about controlling existing weeds in your lawn, and also with preventing weeds this fall. So I'm going to lay out like how I go about keeping weeds out of my lawn, my approach to weed control, and hopefully you guys can get some tips out of it. You can take what's useful for you and perhaps incorporate it into your program and see if it helps you with keeping weeds out of your lawn. So when it comes to controlling weeds, herbicides really come in two major categories, two major classes. And if you guys are, some of you guys that are vets, just bear with me because I want to make sure that this is, for anyone that's new that's watching, they're getting value out of it. So herbicides really come in two major classes, right? So you have post-emergent herbicides and pre-emergent herbicides. Pre-emergent herbicides, as the name kind of implies, so prior to the weeds emerging, hence the name pre-emergent, is a specialized type of herbicide that is designed to interrupt the germination process. So whenever a weed begins to grow, like a new seed is on the ground and begins to throw roots, the pre-emergent interrupts that. It kills the weed, it kills its ability to shoot roots, which in turn kills the plant. So pre-emergent is, its entire job is to prevent weeds from growing in the first place. The majority of pre-emergents, if a weed is already in your lawn, most of them can't really do a whole lot against existing weeds. So the key with pre-emergent is getting your application done prior to the weeds being growing in your lawn, beginning to grow in your lawn. There are a couple of exceptions, some that have a little bit of reach back for certain types of weeds, but the real thing with pre-emergent is get it down before the weeds come in. So the question you're probably asking yourself is, when should I do that? Well, I'm a fan of doing my pre-emergent apps twice in the year. So once in the spring and then again in the fall. So you do an application in the springtime to control warm weather weeds. So like your crabgrass, your spurge, your weeds that tend to grow when temperatures, soil temperatures get to 55 degrees and trending warmer. Our spring pre-emergent's goal is to help prevent that. So the most correct answer as far as when to apply spring pre-emergent is before the average 5-day soil temperature is in the mid 50s. That's what you're really after. So for me, where I am in Northeast Georgia, I tend to get my pre-emergent a little bit early. So the first part of February is when I typically do my pre-emergent apps, and that has worked well for me. When it comes to pre-emergent, the thing to keep in mind is a little bit early is better than a little bit late. Because again, as I said earlier, most pre-emergents are really effective at preventing weeds, but not so much once weeds have begin germinating and begin growing. At that point, you have to move over to the other class of herbicides. So for in the spring, mid 50s or prior to soil temperatures, the average 5-day getting in the mid 50s when you get your pre-emergent done. Spring's already gone, so what we're really going to be focusing on now is the fall. So in the fall, with me having a Bermuda grass lawn and folks that are in that have cool season turf grass, you're trying to prevent the same types of weeds too. So your cool season weeds like your clover, henbit, particularly Poa annua, which is a big one that we try to keep out of our lawns in the Southeast United States. Whenever soil temperatures are in the low 70s and trending cooler, so things are starting to cool off, is when you want to get your pre-emergent out. Poa annua can begin germinating when temps are in the 60s, mid 60s. So the goal is we want to have that barrier, we want to have that pre-emergent herbicide in the soil, applied, watered in the soil prior to when conditions are optimal for weeds like Poa annua to germinate. So for me, for someone like me that, again, Northeast Georgia, what's worked well for me is late August to early September is when I will do my fall pre-emergent application. For your fall pre-emergence, if you are dealing with warm season turf grass, the best pre-emergent, in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, I'm an expert on that, the best pre-emergent you can go with for warm season turf grass in the fall, if your goal is primarily focused around preventing Poa annua, is a product called Spectacle Flow. Now, this stuff is not inexpensive. They are very proud of it, but they're proud of it for a good reason, because as far as herbicides that you can apply, as far as pre-emergents you can apply, and that will keep Poa annua and other cool season weeds at bay, really doesn't get much better than Spectacle. I've tried some other products, prodiamine, dimension with the active ingredient dithiopyr. I've done concoctions. So there are some strategies where you'll take prodiamine and you'll mix it with other pre-emergents and a post-emergent herbicide to help prevent the germination, or help prevent getting Poa annua in your lawn. They all work okay. By far, the best is Spectacle. By far. The nice thing about Spectacle Flow is that if you do an application of this, the label says something like up to 10 months, I think. But realistically, an application of Spectacle will carry you through the fall, through the winter, and really, by the time it's gonna give you enough coverage such that you are good until you're ready for your spring pre-emergent app. Now, there's a couple different ways to use this product. You can do a single application at the higher rate. And for Bermuda grass, that works out to 0.20, right about 0.20 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. That's the higher end of the application rate, and a single app of that in September, early September, will really carry you until spring. Another way of doing it is if you wanted to take that rate, cut it in half, and do an application, say, and again, in late August, early September, and then again in the November, December timeframe, you are taking that annual limit and you're breaking it up over a couple of applications, and that strategy can work well too. Now, the question you might be asking yourself is, which way is better, right? So if you can do a single app and get good coverage. You can do a split app and get good coverage. Which way works better? Well, I can tell you that I've tested it. So it takes 2 years to actually do this, right? Because the first year I did a single application at the higher application rate, and I got excellent results. I really didn't have, I had a handful of POA annua throughout the entire lawn, and the majority of it was where my lawn borders other neighbors' lawns that don't use spectacle. So I'd done that, had excellent results with it. And then last year I did a split application where I did half rate early September, and then another half rate in November, December, and there was the same results. No, not a whole lot of breakthrough. It was just, for the most part, I did a great job. So I would imagine that if you lived in, say, Florida or somewhere where conditions are such that your pre-emergent may not last as long as, say, what we have here in Georgia, maybe that might lend some value towards doing the split application. But having done both, I find that a single app works well. And again, unless you're just itching to have something to do in November, December timeframe, I would say do a single app, and you're good to go really until the late winter, early spring, when you'd be doing your spring pre-emergent. So really, an application in September would cover you all the way until February timeframe. Again, I'm speaking from where I am in the country, and that's what I've tested over several years, and it's worked well for me. So the positive of this is that it works really well. The negative of spectacle flow, for those of you guys that are watching that have cool season turf grass, is that this is not for you. This is only for warm season turf grass. You cannot use spectacle on rye, Kentucky bluegrass, fescue lawns. It's really only for warm season turf grass. So your option then is to use, you've still got some good options, but really prodiamine is a great choice for your fall pre-emergent if you've got a cool season lawn. What I would recommend if you're trying to maximize your chances of keeping POA annua out of your lawn, because prodiamine by itself is not doesn't necessarily last nearly as long as spectacle does, and for that reason, what I would say is if you're going to use prodiamine for your fall app, take the rate, whatever the limit is for your particular stand of turf grass. I'm not going to give you a rate because for cool season grass, it varies. There's different rates. But you would take that rate and then you would do an application, assuming you're not overseeding your lawn, in the September-ish timeframe, and then again, October, November, and that's going to do a pretty good job as far as extending your coverage with prodiamine. Now, the negative to this approach is that because you are using prodiamine as you're getting pretty much, you're using most of your annual limit in the fall. In the spring, when you decide to apply pre-emergent, you're going to have to go to a different product. So if you're going to do this approach of using prodiamine, a split application of it in the fall with the goal of minimizing the amount of POA annua you have in your lawn, what I would say is in the springtime, plan for dimension, or switch to dithiopyr or some other pre-emergent. Pretty much you have to get away from prodiamine because you will already have used your allocation by doing this approach. So that's a good way as far as keeping weeds out of your warm season turf grass and out of your cool season turf grass this fall. So if you want my opinion, again, if you got a warm season lawn, find neighbors, cousins, people you actually like. You guys go on a bottle of it, and spectacle is really what you want to do. We do carry it on the golf course lawn store. If you go to shop and then go to, not click on shop, click on shop and click on weed killer, and then use our filters and look up pre-emergent. So select this right here, and that will show all your pre-emergent options. So spectacle, again, is for warm season turf grass only. If you have a cool season lawn, do not use spectacle. And then for cool season turf grass, you can go with prodiamine, comes in a 5-pound jug, and it's also available as a granular. So it just really depends on which way you want to go. And then for dimension, dithiopyr, that's available in a granular, and you can use that really in your springtime, for your springtime app. All right, so that's where you can get your pre-emergence. I'll link that in the chat for you guys in case any of you are so interested. But between spectacle for your warm season lawn or prodiamine for your cool season lawn, that's going to put you in a pretty good spot. So we've spoken about preventing weeds, right? So pre-emergents by far are the most efficient way of keeping weeds out of your lawn. By using pre-emergent, your need for what we're about to talk about next is minimized. So let's say you already got a lawn, you got tons of weeds in it, and you want to try and control that. You want to get ahead of the existing weeds that are in your lawn. That is where the second class of herbicides come in, which we'll refer to as post-emergent herbicides. And as the name implies, they are useful post the weeds emerging, meaning they've already grown up, they've already found their way in the world. They're like, wow, this is an awesome lawn. I can't wait to wreck it. When they're already there, they're already doing that. They're, throwing off seed heads and calling their buddies in and just having a grand old time on your lawn. That's where post-emergent herbicides come in to help control those, right? So post-emergent herbicides tend to be, that's a spectacle, believe it or not, tend to be quite a bit more expensive than pre-emergent. So it's easier and typically more cost-effective to prevent weeds in your lawn than have to control them after the fact. When it comes to preventing weeds or controlling weeds that are existing in your lawn, there's a couple of questions you have to answer. Thing one is, what kind of grass do you have? That's really important to know, because when it comes to post-emergent herbicides, there are herbicides that are safe for cool season turf grasses like fescue, your rye, your Kentucky bluegrass, and there are post-emergent herbicides that are safe for warm season turf grasses like Bermuda, St. Augustine, centipede, zoysia, those types of grasses. And what you typically find, not in all cases, there are some that will work on both, but in most cases what you find is that herbicides that are very effective on warm season turf grass, meaning you can apply them to weeds growing in a warm season lawn and they will minimize injury to that warm season lawn, are not you can't use them on cool season turf grass. They will injure and or kill it. And the same thing is true for cool season turf grass, like your herbicides that are really good at preventing or minimizing damage to your cool season lawns. If you use them on a warm season lawn, you will damage them. So thing one to know, first of all, is what kind of grass you have. We've got blog posts on the Golf Course Lawn Store under resources. Under here, if you go on our blog section, you can go through here. We've got a blog on several different blogs on how identifying the type of grass you have. Worst case scenario, you can take a picture of it and use like Google image search, and it'll tell you what kind of grass you have, or you can ask your neighbors, hey, what kind of grass is this? But typically, if you're in a cooler part of the country, New York, somewhere up north, Ohio, you're more than likely going to have cool season turf grass. And if you are in the southeast, so really South North Carolina and further down, not always, right? But those people in those parts of the country tend to have warm season turf grass. But the first thing you want to confirm, and this is really important to get right, like this is not one of these things you want to guess on, because if you guess on this and you guess wrong, you're going to give your lawn a really big ouchie. So the one thing you absolutely want to get right is, what kind of grass do I have? So that's thing one. The second question to answer is, what weed am I dealing with? Like, what is it that I'm trying to control? Right? What is the weed in my lawn that I'm trying to remove? Because there's not like a single herbicide that will control all weeds, right? I mean, selectively anyway. Glyphosate's an option, but that's not, you really want to use that on your lawn because it's going to damage it, right? But if you're looking for selective control over a particular type of weed in your type of grass, you want to be able to identify the weed. So we got to identify the kind of grass we have. That shouldn't be that hard. Identifying the weed, maybe a little more challenging, but again, a quick Google image search will tell you what it is. We've got tons of content on the Golf Course Lawn Store, like what kind of weeds have pink flowers. I think we've got one on clover, obviously. We've got one on purple flowers, on white flowers, on yellow flowered weeds. But we've got you covered here as far as being able to identify what kind of weed you potentially have in your lawn. We've got like a list of them, so you should be able to use the resources here, free to use on the store, to be able to identify what you got going on. Again, worst case, you can take a picture of it and throw it into Google image search. That does a pretty good job as far as just ensuring that you are identifying the weed correctly. So we know what kind of grass we have. We know what kind of weeds we have. Now at this point, we can now select a herbicide. So when it comes to, say, warm season turf grass, right? There's two herbicides you guys see me talk about quite a bit. I'm a really big fan of them. The first is a broadleaf herbicide, because it's really effective against broadleaf weeds for the most part, called Celsius. Now, this guy is, and if I could only have one herbicide, really, if you're talking about warm season turf grass, it would probably be Celsius, because there are no label temperature restrictions for this, and it controls a broad range of weeds. For the most part, if you have a broadleaf weed in your warm season turf grass, Celsius will likely take care of it. And then as far as another herbicide I like to combine with this is a herbicide that is really more designed for sedge control, some of your more grassy weeds, some of your more difficult, more boutique type weeds, Poa annua being one of them, is a herbicide called Certainty. So both Celsius and Certainty are safe for use on warm season turf grass. Neither of them have any temperature restrictions, and the nice thing is that these two mix together. They're beautiful together. So you could literally use both of these at the same time on a lawn that's, say, covered up in weeds, and it's going to do a pretty good job cleaning that up. So Celsius and Certainty are really what I would, as far as for warm season turf grass, this is what I would say. I mean, for best results, you're going to want to combine them with a surfactant. What this does is it helps the herbicide adhere to the leaf of the weed. So say you get rainfall the day afterwards, you're less likely for it to wash off. And it also helps the, it's called a spreader sticker. So it also helps the herbicide to spread or coat the leaf of the weed. So think of it this way. These types of herbicides, so Certainty and Celsius, work via foliar uptakes. And what that means is if you think about whenever you put, say, sunscreen on, right? When you put sunscreen on, you spray it and you get like a nice like misting over your skin, and that does a pretty good job preventing you from getting sunburn for a few hours. So you can think of how these herbicides are applied to a lawn or to a weed you're trying to control in very much the same way. That you use a sprayer with a fine droplet, and the goal is to lightly coat the leaf of the weed, but not to the point where it's running off. If you're spraying it to the point where you're getting a bunch of runoff, one, you're really wasting the herbicide because it really is designed for foliar uptake, and you're also over applying it. So a light single pass is really all you need whenever you're using post-emergent herbicides that rely on foliar uptake. So that really applies to Celsius and Certainty. I've got a video showing how to use these, and I'll link that here in the chat in a second. But that's what I would use really for your post-emergent control in general. Now, there's one other herbicide that's worth considering if what you primarily care about is crabgrass. So I'll show you that really quickly. If you go to the golf course lawn store, you go to shop, and then you go to weed killer. So Celsius and Certainty, these guys are warm season turf grass only. But if all you care about, or what you're primarily trying to control, is crabgrass, then quinclorac, this guy right here, is an excellent option. Now, remember I told you there are some herbicides, you got a couple of unicorns that can be used on both warm season turf grass and cool season turf grass for the most part. Quinclorac is one of them. Outside of centipede and St. Augustine, and I think fine fescue. There's a couple of grasses that are sensitive to it, but particularly St. Augustine and centipede, you cannot use this on. But if you had a ryegrass lawn, a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, a turf type tall fescue lawn, Bermuda, zoysia, this herbicide is good to go on all those grasses. So it's really, this is an example of one type of herbicide, a little more specialized, that can be used on both warm and cool season turf grass. This is really the only other herbicide that I would consider outside of Celsius and Certainty to round out a package for a warm season lawn. Really, between those three, you're going to be covered. Switching gears to cool season turf grass, your option for cool season turf grass, if you're looking for sedge control, a good option, I'll get this off here really quick, is a product called Sedgehammer. So this in many ways takes the place of Certainty in warm season turf grass. So kind of like how Certainty is really good at controlling sedges in a warm season lawn, Sedgehammer is excellent at controlling sedges in a cool season lawn. Now, Sedgehammer is kind of like quinclorac in the sense that you can use this on both warm and cool season turf grass. So the question you're probably asking yourself is, well, Ron, if I can use this on cool season lawns and warm season lawns, why would I just get this instead of Certainty? Well, the reason for that is couple of things. One, it's very slow to work. So as far as the amount of time when you will spray this and when you will see effects, Sedgehammer takes quite a bit longer than Certainty does. Certainty controls more sedges as far as control, has a broader variety of weeds that it controls than Sedgehammer. And for those of us with warm season turf grass, Certainty controls Poa annua, which Sedgehammer does not. So for that reason, it works faster, controls more weeds, to include Poa annua. That's why Certainty is one that I really, really would recommend if you have a warm season lawn. But cool season lawn, Sedgehammer is what you got. Live with it, deal with it. You guys get nicer stripes, you get deeper green grass, cry me a river. So what if you have to wait longer for your weeds to die, right? Your next option for that I like to recommend for folks that need to control weeds in a cool season lawn is a herbicide called Tenacity. Now, Tenacity is a post-emergent herbicide, but it's really kind of a specialty herbicide in a sense too, in that you can use this for controlling existing weeds. And there are also ways to use it as a mild pre-emergent as part of a seeding project. So really depending on what you're trying to accomplish, Tenacity can kind of serve both roles. If you're using it for post-emergent control, you would use it similar to the way you'd use Celsius or Certainty. Follow the label, mix up the appropriate amount of product. There's a handy measuring cup that's built into the bottle that'll tell you how many teaspoons with how many gallons of water. With Sedgehammer, there's an included measuring scoop. Same thing, will tell you how many scoops with how many gallons of water, a little bit of surfactant, and then you're good to go. The nice thing with these two herbicides, similar to Celsius, and certainty for warm season turf grass is that there's no label temperature restrictions for these, which is why I like to recommend them. Now, there are other herbicides you can use for broadleaf control in a cool season lawn. Like you can use like 3-ways that will work well, but those you have to be careful with. Once temperatures are in the mid 80s and trending warmer or just hotter than that, you really got to be careful unless you're willing to tolerate a bit of injury. Whereas with Sedgehammer and Tenacity, with these guys, there are no real label temperature restrictions, just like with Celsius and Certainty, no label temperature restrictions, which is why I tend to recommend them for folks that are just trying to clean up weeds in their lawn, that because it gives you a lot of margin for there's more margin for error, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Temperature, we're pretty much taking temperature, or we're severely reducing the chances that temperature is going to have a bad, negatively impact the results that we get. Okay, so Tenacity, Sedgehammer for cool season turf grass, Celsius, Certainty for warm season turf grass, and if you're interested in those, we obviously carry them on the golf course lawn store. We have kits for both. So there's a kit that includes Celsius, Certainty, surfactant, dye. This is our warm season kit, hence why it says here in big letters, warm season grass. And then we also have a similar one for cool season turf grass that has Tenacity, Sedgehammer, surfactant, dye. And as you can see, it is appropriately labeled cool season turf grass. So you've got warm season bundle, you got cool season bundle, and then we have some other specialty herbicides on here. Like Recognition is a specialty herbicide for removing Bermuda in zoysia and St. Augustine lawns. But I mean, that's another thing, and that's not really what we're talking about for the fall. So between those two, between the kits or the herbicides a la carte, that'll put you in a really good spot. So the thing to keep in mind, takeaways for this section before we get into questions are, get your pre-emergent done. If you time your pre-emergent applications properly, that is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting to where you really are not going to have to rely on post-emergent herbicides to keep your lawn weed-free. Because remember, the entire goal behind herbicides, really post-emergent herbicides anyway, is you want to injure or knock back the undesirable plant, which we refer to as weeds. And then between regular mowing, a good fertilization program, you're going to cause your grass to grow in nice and thick, which is actually the best weed control. Like a thick stand of turf grass makes it really difficult for weeds to establish. So what I would encourage you guys to do is look at herbicides, or at least post-emergent herbicides anyway, as a tool to use to get ahead of the curve. The goal is, if you go into a lawn that's never been cared for, where you've got some of the grass you want to keep, and you got a lot of the weeds that you don't want, look at it this way: by using like a post-emergent herbicide combination, you are knocking back, you're injuring the grass, the weeds, the plants that you don't want, which now gives us time to mow, fertilize, get our lawn doing its absolute best. And that over time, that's gonna reduce your reliance on post-emergent herbicides. So you'll be able to buy these, and really you'll have them around for years, because you're not gonna be needing to use them all the time. If you're doing it right, you really shouldn't have to be spraying herbicides on your lawn very often. The only herbicides that I really recommend for folks that are really trying to keep weeds, or to minimize the amount of work you have to do with controlling weeds, is a pre-emergent. Pre-emergent makes a huge difference, again, in the spring and in the fall. And for the most part, fertilize your lawn, mow your lawn, and you're gonna have a pretty good stand of turf grass. So that's what I want to share with you guys, because I've been getting questions around when to start using pre-emergent, how to control weeds in your lawn, and hopefully this gives you guys a bit of a primer as far as why, or different strategies of how to control weeds in a way that's both cost effective and just is going to get you a better result. Again, on the golf course lawn store, under the resources section, we've got blogs with tons of different topics. Got one on nutsedge. We just updated disease blogs. I mean, so you got pretty much for all of the common weeds that you would be dealing with in your lawn. There's likely an article already written with a process, products, as far as how to control that particular weed in your lawn. So take advantage of that. It's free for you guys to take advantage of. And again, if you have any questions after you read the blogs and you want to reach out to us, we'll do our best to help you out. All right, with that out of the way, let's get on to the questions. Again, guys and gals on Instagram, if you guys have any questions, I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth. I'm back on the iPhone tonight because I figured it's easier for me to restart the stream on my phone than the software that I'm using. So hence, you guys are gonna get to see the widescreen. You're gonna get to see all this. All right, so let's see, nothing so far from the folks on, let's see here. We have, okay, nothing yet. Nothing, no other comments. All right. Next up, let's get going with our stream. We got Jackie Bear in the house. Says happy live stream, brother. I appreciate that, Jackie. Thank you so much for that. And then next up, we have Platinum Exteriors. Platinum Exteriors. He says, hey, Ron, just did an overseed and threw down tenacity. When can I put another application on the turf? So at a minimum, like 3 to 4 weeks after the initial app. But the question I'd rather ask you is, what makes you think you're going to need to do another application? So you use tenacity as part of your, I imagine, as part of this overseeding project to help keep weeds at bay while the grass grows in. Why? I guess are we already looking to spray again? And if you need to, you need to, right? But ideally, you'd be able to allow the new grass to grow in. I could see if you got some clumps here and there, you might do some spot spraying, but I wouldn't want you to just plan for another blanket application of tenacity unless, again, the lawn, there's an issue and you actually need to use the herbicide. Even with blanket spraying, you really want to minimize that because tenacity, while it's an excellent herbicide, it does, or in most cases, it does temporarily discolor the lawn a little bit for cool season lawns. So if you can avoid that, that would be better. So I'd say, to answer your question, no sooner than 4 weeks after the first one, but really gauge whether you need to do that at all. You know what I mean? You may not need to do you may not need to spray herbicides at all. So just hopefully that helps. All right, next up we got Mr. Robert Rainey, affectionately known as that guy in these parts. He says, good evening. What's going on, Robert? Hopefully you're doing well. I saw you out there getting your verticut done. I respect it. Looks really good. It's looking good. And then next up, we have Sam LOL 23 says, thank you. I appreciate that, Sam LOL. I'm not sure what I'm getting thanked for, but I'm glad I'm useful. And then next, we have Mr. Steven Wynn in the live stream. He says, happy Friday, everyone. Just got everything cut and made it for the live. Didn't want to miss it like last week. Hit that like button, y'all. Yeah, last week was shorter. I think we only went like an hour and 45 minutes, which for me is a short live stream. We'll see what happens tonight. Might be the same thing. But yeah, I'm glad you made it, Steven. Good job getting your mow done before coming in here, because you can always watch the live stream again after the fact. Mowing trumps the live stream. I know, and that's not my best interest to say that, but I mean, if you have a choice between mowing your lawn and keeping up with your mowing schedule or watching the live stream live, I'm going to say, hey, go mow your grass. I will be here when you get done mowing your lawn, right? So you made the good choice. Happy to hear that. All right, we have a question here now in Instagram from the Maestro. It says, I applied Carbon Pro G, and after a few weeks and some decent rain, the granules are still visible. How fast should it break down? Would Essential G disperse better? It's typically for you just to see it at all. The Maestro, 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, the majority of it breaks down pretty quickly, especially once it gets some rainfall or any kind of like irrigation on it. But if you had some slightly larger prill, that can take a little while longer. I really wouldn't worry about it, man. I mean, if you're talking about a little bit here and there, no, that's really not gonna hurt anything. It also depends on how heavy you put it down, right? If you went well over the application rate, which you can do with Carbon Pro G or Essential G, that also can lead to it taking a little bit longer for you to not see any prills whatsoever on your lawn. But in my case, what I find is I apply Essential G within a week, like hardly any of it is visible, and by the 3 week point, it's like I don't find it, I don't see it at all. And my turf is pretty thick as far as being dense. It's pretty thick and it still breaks down pretty quickly. So I really wouldn't sweat it too much. I haven't used Carbon Pro G in a number of years, so I have no reason to believe that the formulation has changed in any way. But as far as Essential G, what you'd expect is, again, the first couple of weeks, it's going to, for the most part, be gone. By week 3, it's typically gone as well, too. So long, short, nothing to worry about is what I'm trying to say. All right, next up, we got Papa Moslow. Papa Moslow, man, haven't seen you in a while, man. Hope you've been doing all right. He's happy Friday, Ron, and all. Happy Friday, Papa Moslow. Hopefully you're doing well. And then next up, we got Robert Rainey. So his question is around the Olympics. He says, Ron, what's your favorite Olympic sport? Probably track. Probably one that's probably the best to watch is track and field. That's fun to watch. Swimming is also fun. Believe it or not, I actually don't like the martial arts in the Olympics. Judo's okay, but like the taekwondo, the point fighting in the Olympics is not. I don't care for it. Like the rules they use are not. I don't think are very good. Like they really throw punches. They get like tight. Like whenever they get close, they kind of get up and kind of hug each other, like how boxers do. The whole thing is like throwing these really crazy kicks up close and trying to tap each other on the head. It's not it's not what I think of. It's not representative of real fighting, right? So I think if they did like full contact or just more contact, point sparring, that would be cooler. Or even doing what we do, which is we're really not supposed to have contact, but in Tang Soo Do, there are like punches are thrown. There's a lot more. It's a lot like closer to what you would do in a real fight versus in the Olympics. It's not. I didn't really care for it that much. So. Track and field, I'm going to say, and the swimming is also pretty cool. Martial arts or like the point fighting is, because I don't really care for the style. So that's just me. All right, next up we have Carrie McDaniel. Carrie McDaniel's in the live stream. He says, "Send rain. When it stopped here in Central Alabama, it really stopped." Yeah, let me think. We got rain a few days ago, but you're right. The forecast, I was looking at it before the live stream started, and we have none in the forecast for the next 10 days. So we'll see. Hopefully that doesn't stay that way, but we'll see. We got plenty of moisture. Run your irrigation, man. You'll be good. You'll be all right. You'll be fine. And then next up is Murph and Turvey. He says Carbon Pro G can take weeks to break down, but the results continue for years. Yep, I agree with that. Essential G is a completely different thing, but it breaks down faster. Cool. Thanks for that, Murph and Turf. Says, yeah, they are similar. They're related. They're relatives in the sense that Carbon Pro G and Essential G are both manufactured by Miramichi Green. Like Miramichi Green makes Carbon Pro G for Lesco for Site 1. But yes, they're both excellent products. And I haven't used Carbon Pro G in a long time to be able to compare them and say how well they break down. Essential G, I don't notice it really sticking around for very long. Like it breaks down pretty quickly. So what you're saying is what I also find to be true in my day-to-day. All right. Next up is G-Free. Mr. Gary Freeman's in the house. He says, "Hey, Ron, Stripe Action Gang. Happy Friday, y'all." Happy Friday, Gary. Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you for coming and hanging out in the live stream. I appreciate you. And then next, we have Gavin Moore. He says, "Happy Friday, Ron. Question. I'm going to air it on Saturday, top dress and seed. How long should I wait before my next cut? Just finishing getting all the 2 inches of rain. Thanks for all you do." Okay, so you're going to aerate and then top dress and seed. So I would wait until the lawn recovers. So it's likely going to be a couple of weeks. It's going to be a few weeks before you're ready to put a mower back out on the lawn. But your lawn's going to tell you, like, when you top dress it, you're pretty much done for that week at best. And at the soonest, I would imagine, unless you went really light, is going to be like at the 2-week marker. So I would just judge your lawn, see how it's growing in, see how the grass seed that you're putting in the lawn, how that's growing in, and then you can assess whether when it's time for you to mow. When you do start mowing again, assuming you're using a reel mower, raise the height of cut, because one thing that you don't want to do is put a reel mower into sand. Like that's the fastest way to dull it. So what I would highly recommend is again, give it a couple of weeks, assess the lawn, and when you start mowing, mow taller. Great question, sir. Again, I guess it is true. That is true. 'Tis the season for overseeding for my cool season brethren and sistren. So yeah, I get it. And Gavin, I'm gonna help you out even more. I have a short video that talks about this very topic, like what to do. Like, say you just got through top dressing your lawn, what do you do afterward? Like, what comes after the monumental task of top dressing? All right, and believe it or not, it's a really short video. I know I can be kind of long-winded in the live stream, but this video is under 3 minutes. So for only 3 minutes of your time, you will have the answers to your questions. So hopefully that helps, Gavin. That video that I just linked you there in the chat. All right, No Name is up next. He says, "Hey, Ron and fellow lawn enthusiasts, I'm going to miss tonight's live stream, but wanted to make sure we got those likes up. Thanks, No Name. Again, we got to work on your definition of missing, because when you miss a live stream, it means you're not here, but you're commenting. So obviously you're here. So whatever, I still appreciate you coming. Here's the thing: if you're gonna miss a live stream, like keep missing it the way you're missing it. Like you missing it while still being here, really, really good. So, and again, thank you so much for leading the charge and getting the thumbs up, guys. We are 40 minutes or so into the live stream, so if you've not hit that super chat as yet, or given a like, feel free to do so. Super chat does cost you something, but as far as a free way to support the channel, you can absolutely do that, and I would really appreciate it. It sends good vibes to YouTube, so we can go a little bit longer this week instead of like the 1 hour and 45 minutes last week. Made me a little bit sad. Speaking of super chats, we got our first one of the evening. This one is from Long3316. Thank you so much, sir.
Super chat
He
received.
says, hi, I have a 9-month-old sod with poor drainage. I have moss now in spots. Would aerating help? Yeah, aerating would help. Top dressing, believe it or not, will also help. So assuming the drainage is because water is having issues penetrating the soil profile. So it's not a situation where you've got like a bowl or a big dip in the lawn where water's just pooling there. If that's the case, we're going to have to do something around that. We're going to have to either put like a French drain in or a catch basin or some way to evacuate that water. But if you're talking about a lawn that is relatively flat, but then when rain gets on it, it just stays waterlogged for a long time, so it just has trouble draining. Uh, Aeration, yes, is going to help, but I'm telling you, one of the best benefits of top dressing your lawn is the improved drainage. Like that was the one thing that I saw when I started top dress. The first time I top dressed my lawn, I was doing it for the same reason that most people do it, right? I want my lawn to be smoother, look nice, get that golf course lawn look. I can mow shorter. But the one thing I didn't expect was the fact that once a lawn has been top dressed, especially if you aerate and then put a nice blend of sand and soil on the lawn, like the ability for the soil to then pull moisture away from the surface is incredible. It's like a night and day difference. Like when I used to have heavy rain on my lawn, water would sit there for an entire day, sometimes a day and a half, like a pool of water on the lawn. After the first time I top dress, it doesn't matter how heavy it rains. I mean, I could have a monsoon coming down, it could be 2, 3, 4 inches of rain. The worst you'll see is it'll be there for like 2 to 3 hours at best, and then it's done, it's gone, it gets pulled away from the surface. So yes, aeration will help with the with drainage, but if you can pair top dressing with your aeration, be a thing of beauty. It's really what I would recommend. Now, depending on where you are in the country, we are getting kind of close. We're getting on the on on the time period where it's a little bit late to do a top dressing if you are in the southeast. If you're in Florida, you guys have hot temperatures for a lot longer than we are. But if you're in Georgia, you're kind of on the bubble as far as doing a lawn leveling project. If you have cool season turf grass, then that's going to be fine. You're going to be fine to still do lawn leveling because most folks with cool season lawns will do their leveling, say either in the spring or now, like the temperatures are coming into now in the falls when they're about to do it. So depending on what you have, I would highly recommend pairing a light top dressing along with your aeration. If you find that you happen to have warm season turf grass, I'm not sure where you are, and it's not in the cards for you this year because of either timing or budget or whatever else, definitely for next year, plan for top dressing. I can't emphasize enough. Like one of the biggest benefits you're going to get is the lawn's going to drain so much better. In addition to it looking really cool, right? It looks really nice. The lawn looks really nice once it's been top dressed, but drainage is massively improved by introducing some sand to this soil profile. So hope that helps. Along 3316. So you can use like products like Moss X, like those will help. I think it's a Scott's product. Like those will help. But the thing to keep in mind with things like that is that if you don't cure or you don't resolve the conditions that are causing the moss to be there in the first place, it's just going to happen again, which is why I spent all this time talking about like process versus just saying, hey, go out and go buy Moss X and put that down. Because if we don't fix what's causing the lawn to stay waterlogged, you're just going to be right back here. You see what I'm saying? So as a pinch, yes, you can use some of the products like Moss X is a decent product. But again, I would say let's cure the problem or cure the conditions that are causing the issue versus focusing on just like throwing remediation, if that makes sense. So hope that helps. Thank you so much. And because you are our first super chat, you, sir, are the show sponsor. Your name in lights for whatever that means to you. Thanks again so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. And again, guys, gals, we got 120 folks in the live stream, only 60 likes. Surely we can do better than that. If some of you guys are sitting down now, enjoying your cup of whatever beverage you're enjoying, hit that like button on the way in. It's a great way to support the channel, sends good vibes to the YouTube algorithm, and I really, really would appreciate it. All right, we have a comment here now on from Murph and Turf. Yeah, he was saying, yeah, aeration and sand. I agree with that, Murph and Turf. Absolutely, that is a great advice. And then, yeah, for moss advice, you agree with my moss advice. Yeah, guys, the big thing to keep in mind is, when it comes to controlling, we're talking about moss here. His question was around moss, but when it really comes to controlling anything that's undesirable that's happening in your lawn, it is easier to to create conditions where it's harder for that to happen versus taking care of it after the fact, which is why if you look at the program that we do on the Golf Course Lawn Store, like our annual application calendar, if you look in here, like you go to resources and then our lawn care schedule and you hit 5, like the monthly breakdown as far as what you do each month. Like while this is telling you what inputs to apply to your lawn each month, a lot of the way this was developed is around prevention. Like there's a reason why in the springtime we recommend a fungicide app, late springtime a fungicide app, and we also recommend an insecticide app. Reason being is by doing that, you prevent the conditions or you make the conditions much less desirable for you to have a problem with disease, for you to have a problem with insects in your lawn. When it comes to dealing with, you think about like, for example, weeds that love water. So like sedges, Poa annua, they love parts of the lawn that get wet and stay wet. They do really well there. So if you have a part of a lawn, when I get a question from someone, they say, well, I got this area of my lawn, I'm always having to deal with nutsedge. And the next question I ask them is, does that area stay really wet? Like how well does it drain? Because while we can use, you've got warm season turf grass, we can use something like Certainty, and it is a baller herbicide. As far as like herbicides go, for killing up like sedges, the bee's knees, incredible product. But I'd much rather you fix the conditions, like the drainage problem, to where you'll do maybe a couple of rounds of Certainty, and then sedges become a lot less of a problem in your lawn. They're more like a rare occurrence versus something you're constantly fighting and constantly having to throw herbicides at. So whenever you have an issue in your lawn, always try and ask yourself, like, what are the conditions that are in my lawn that are causing this to be a thing? And how do I fix that? How do I make the conditions such that what I really want is more likely to happen, and what I don't want is less likely to happen? And if you take that approach, you'll use less product, you'll get a better stand of turf grass, and it'll stay looking good longer over a broader like temperature range and under broader conditions, because you're just making things more optimal for the lawn to do well. All right, next up, we have Mr. Greg Lyon. Greg Lyon's in the house. He says, what would be, for a cost-effective way, what would you suggest for verticutting? A sunjoe? Should I still do it in August or September? So great question, Greg. For verticutting on the budget, I would say a sunjoe is a great option. As far as doing it in September and August, I typically don't. Like, so my last verticut is going to be was the end of July. So my last verticut will be then, and then, August. I mean, if you're in Florida, you could get away with it, but September, absolutely, I would not. I would not. Again, it depends on where you are in the country, but in September, temperatures are starting to cool down a little bit here in Georgia. The grass is going to start slowing down, so your need to verticut really in September is not nearly as much as you would need to do in late spring and in the summer months. So August is, I'd say you can call an audible on August, whether you want to do a verticut in August or not. September, I would say no. I really wouldn't bother. And a sunjoe is a good option for verticutting on a budget. It's a great question. Great question. I like it, man. You guys are embracing like the stuff other than just putting products on your lawn, right? Just the cultural practices that also help you get a great stand of turf grass. All right, next up we got Devin in the live stream. He says, what's up, Ron? Looking forward to another great night of turf talk. Finally got some rain today. Third rain of the summer. Man, you guys are being abused by Mother Nature, Devin. Third rain of the summer. I can't imagine, man. You got to send me pictures of the course at some point when you get a chance. Like if you can send them to me on the via the gram, I'll just take a look. It'd be interesting to see how you guys are dealing with lack of rainfall. In case you guys don't know, Devin is he's the greenskeeper, probably a better way of saying it, he's the superintendent for a golf course out in Colorado Springs. So he's nice enough every now and then to grace us with his presence in the live stream. So really cool, man. Thanks. Appreciate you coming to hang out tonight as well. Ryan Contento, he says, happy Friday, Ron. What's going on, sir? And then next up, we have Sims Jamel. Okay, he says, trying to find out how to measure how much bulk compost I need over 4,000 square feet. Excellent question, Sims. So the general rule that will serve you well is you want 1 cubic yard of material per 1,000 square feet. 1 cubic yard is going to be enough for you to do, a 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch or so of coverage across the property, which is going to allow you to if your goal is to do some lawn leveling to smooth out those bumpy spots while not going so heavy that it takes the lawn longer to recover. So if this is your first time you're doing compost, I would say get 4 yards. 4 cubic yards of compost over 4,000 square feet is going to serve you well. You might find that if you decide to do this again next year, you may be able to get by with a little bit less, but for the first time, 1 cubic yard per 1,000 square feet is going to produce a good result for you. So great question. I hope that works well. And you didn't tell me like what kind of compost you're using, but what I would highly recommend, don't just get compost out of the blue. Like whoever you're getting it from, ask them if it's a screened product, if it's a screened compost, because what you don't want to do is get out there and go put a product down on your lawn, like, for lack of a better term, like compost has a lot of garbage in it, like peanut shells, bark, like twigs, stones, all this kind of stuff, to where you have to spend a lot of time cleaning that up after the fact. So highly would recommend that get a quality screened compost. If you are in the Southeast, Supersod makes an excellent one. So I can show you here really quick. If you were to go to, I think I'm here. Yeah. So Supersod, if you want like one of the best composts you can get here locally in Georgia, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, some parts of Alabama and some parts of Tennessee, you're really going to be hard pressed to do better than their soil cube compost, especially for the price. It's not bad at all. $210 delivered, not a bad deal. We have also a link you can use that will discount that sum. I think it takes like $35 or so. I'll have to quote me on that. It's $25 to $35, whatever price they have. It discounts it pretty well. So I'll link that in the chat for you. This is an excellent option. If you're not in the Southeast, another option for a very rich compost product, it's going to be quite a bit more expensive, is carbonized PN, which is available in a super sack. So if you go to shop and then Miramichi Green Biostimulants and you go to the second page, you can get carbonized PN, which is the equivalent of 50 bags of it. This is two yards. And this price is delivered. So that's to your door. So we've got to truck the stuff across the country. So unfortunately, it's not cheap. But you can see as far as like a very rich material, you can take a look at that. There's no garbage in that. It's screened a couple of times before they actually bag it. And this is me actually holding it in my hands. This is when I visited the Miramichi Green facility where they actually make the stuff. And you can see that's a very high quality product. If you wanted it in a smaller amount, you could go with just the bags. Carbonized PN, it comes also in bags. That's also available, also an option. But given that you're trying to cover a larger area, I would look at the super sack, assuming you can't get a quality compost in your neck of the woods. So a couple of things. I'll set you up with where you can find carbonized PN. So I'll give you a link to that, and then I'll also give you a link to the product from Supersod, which will save you a little bit of money. Doesn't cost you any more, and so yeah, it just depends on if you happen to live in a part of the country where it's possible to get your hands on it, then you could get it. Again, this is the best stuff that I've used for top dressing my lawn. I highly recommend it if you're in a part of the country where you can get it. All right, so this link right here will take you there. So super sod, we'll say compost and leveling mix. All right, so there you go. Okay, next up, we have Ryan Contento. He says, let's get those likes up. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you. See, I'm here. I'm hustling hard. I'm grinding hard. I appreciate I'm not the only one saying to get those likes up. So if you guys haven't hit the like button as yet, please do so. Costs you absolutely nothing. It's a free way to support the channel. All right, next up is Mr. Gavin Moore. He says, if I'm planting seed, can I use tenacity instead of spectacle flow? It's a good question. You know what? That's a good point, Gavin. I did not touch on this on my my monologue on pre-emergence. One thing to keep in mind with pre-emergent is that if you are trying to grow grass seeds, so if you're planning on, say, overseeding your lawn this fall, you don't want to use pre-emergent. Nothing like prodiamine, dimension if you have a cool season turf, a cool season lawn, or spectacle flow if you have a warm season lawn. Tenacity, again, is kind of a specialty type product in that if it has It can behave as a pre-emergent if you apply it with a larger droplet spray tip and then water it in. You get like 3 to 4 weeks of weed suppression, but it's not a pre-emergent in the true sense of the word to where you'd apply it and it's going to cover you all season. It's really a good tool to use as part of a seeding project. So your question about using, I'm not sure where you are, Gavin, but again, your question about using tenacity instead of spectacle flow, I would not use tenacity if you have warm season turf grass, and I would not use spectacle flow if you're planning to seed. Really, if you're trying to do any kind of overseeding or any kind of seeding project, you want to avoid pre-emergence. So that's a good point. Whenever it comes to doing when it comes to pre-emergent in the fall, this is primarily for cool season folks, or folks that have a Bermuda lawn and you're planning to overseed it with, say, ryegrass, so we can say green all year. If you're in any of those categories where you're planning to do an overseed within the next few months, then you want to avoid pre-emergent. So you're kind of making the choice. You're making a trade-off. Your decision is getting excellent germination with my seeding project most important to me, or is avoiding weeds in my lawn more important to me? Unfortunately, you really can't have both in a way that's going to be really effective. So if your thing is, I don't want weeds in my lawn, I can't stand weeds, then pre-emergent. If your thing is, I want to overseed my lawn, I want to try and thicken it up, or I got some bare areas, or just whatever it is you're trying to do, then you can do that, but you want to avoid pre-emergent because it's going to damage, it's going to inhibit even your grass seed from growing in. So hope that helps, Gavin. To answer your question, if you have a cool season lawn and you want to use tenacity as part of your seeding project, fine. Spectacle flow, I would avoid at all costs if your plan is to do any kind of seeding on a warm season lawn, because it's going to negatively affect your germination. I would not do that. All right, next up is Mr. Matt, the mailman. He says, I wanted to comment on the question about irrigation for 20,000 square feet. I'm guessing you said 20 square foot lawn. That was asked last week. I have 30,000 square foot lawn and I run 4 sprinklers with 4 hoses for 40 minutes and it takes all day to water. Yeah, see that you don't want to be about that life. That sounds like a lot of work and pain, Matt. So 40 minutes, it takes all day to do that. Yeah, man, it's a headache. And also too, if you want to mow, now you got to get the hoses up, you got to drag them off the lawn, mow the grass, and bring the hoses back on. So it's just a huge hassle. So thank you for chiming in on that. I mean, if you have the budget to afford it, it is well worth the investment to do irrigation versus dragging hoses around, especially if you're someone that is like mowing regularly, you're trying to keep the lawn looking as nice as possible, then yeah, again, I would just highly say, bite the bullet, get irrigation installed and go from there. I mean, that's one of the negatives of having a big property. Like there's a lot of folks who are like, I want a big lawn, I want acreage, I want to have a big property. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's more to take care of. Doing anything on a larger lawn, assuming you want all of it to be maintained, is going to cost more. So just something to keep in mind. All right, next up is Michael C. Is there anything at the big box stores that will kill nutsedge? Thanks. Yeah, so there is, you could use imazaquin. It's going to be in a bottle called Image. That will work against nutsedge. It's going to be slower to work. And then you also have Ortho makes I think they still carry it. I haven't looked at the herbicide section of like the big box stores in a while. But if you go there, there's going to be a product by Ortho that will also work against sedges. You got to be careful with it because the last time I used it, which was years ago, I think I did a video on it maybe in 2020 or 2021. So it was a long time ago. It tends to turn the grass orange in the area. So I use that product on my lawn in the swale area between Alex and I, and that was the effect that I got from it. So it's effective. It works faster than what Image does, but you are likely to get a little bit of discoloration with that product versus using something like, say, Certainty or Sedgehammer. So looking at those, Michael C., that's what I would say to take a look at if you're looking for something that you can find locally. All right. Stephen Wynn is up next. He says, I did a light leveling of the front with 10,000 square feet with a wheelbarrow, shovel, leveling rake, mixing sand, and topsoil. I think I died 3 times. I told you, man, leveling is, you go through different phases of it, man. At some point, lawn leveling is one of those things you start off and you're really excited. And as you get into it, you kind of ask yourself, is this really hard? Is this supposed to be like this? And yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. It's like a lot of work. Like there's the reason why people will pay other people to do it for them, because it is a lot of work. 10,000 square feet. is no joke. Again, I've done my lawn and Alex's lawn in a weekend, and like you, I about died. Not quite 3 times, but it's rough. I mean, you get to a point where you're just like you're a marathoner. You're just trying to get through it. You just want it to be done. It's a lot of work, but it is pretty awesome. Once it's finished, it is pretty cool. And you're saying, no, I have to get the backyard, 7,000 square feet, ready for sod next week. Very cool, man. Sounds good. Very cool, Steven. Sounds like you are taking the steps to get the best possible lawn, and it'll pay off for you. It'll pay off for you. All right, next up is Terrence Stamps. He says, good evening, Ron and all. It's been 4 straight days of rain here in PA. Terrence, listen, man, you got to be careful. There's folks in parts of the country, the folks in Alabama, Texas probably as well too. They haven't been getting a lot of rainfall. They're really sensitive when people come in and talk about getting lots of rain, like 4 days of rain. It's kind of a flex, you know what I mean? You gotta be sensitive to the audience when you bring those kind of things out. I mean, I'm happy that you're getting rain, but you got to remember, there's other people in here that haven't seen rain at all. They walk outside and they spray themselves with a garden hose to know what it's like to be out whenever rainfall is coming, right? So that's good. I wish we were getting some. The forecast is showing for again the next 10 days no rain, so at least someone's getting some. All right, next up is Senor Frijole. He says, do you have any experience with Celsius Extra, a combination of the active ingredient in Celsius and Certainty? Sort of. So I don't have any direct experience with Celsius Extra, and it's actually not unless they change the formulation, it's not the same active ingredient that's in Celsius and Certainty. It's what's in Celsius and what's in Sedgehammer, but not what's in Certainty. So that, again, it might not that Bear needs they listen to me, but I mean, in my opinion, if they really wanted to have like an amazing product, they should have done what you're talking about, taken the active ingredient that's in Certainty, and then combine that with Celsius, and you have a killer product. But the fact is that it basically you're getting sedge control along the lines of what Sedgehammer would do, but you're not getting the POA annular control. You're not getting there's other grassy weeds that Certainty controls that Sedgehammer doesn't. So for that reason, that's why we don't even carry it on the golf course lawn store, because in my opinion, like Celsius and Certainty are a better combination than Celsius Extra. Like Celsius Extra, again, if they'd done what you're talking about, then yeah, it would have been an amazing product. But that's not what it is. It's Sedgehammer. It's Sedgehammer, which again, not bad, but it's not for warm season grasses. It doesn't replace this. Like this is still wrong camera. This is still superior to Celsius Extra. Like this is a better combination than Celsius Extra is. So that's why we don't carry it, and that's why we talk about it or really even recommend it. So hope that helps, Senor Frijole. A great comment. And then yeah, Brian Powell says Ortho Weed Killer works great. Yeah, so what he's talking about, that's the product I was talking about. It comes in I think it's a green bottle. I think it's a green bottle if I remember properly. Green bottle works on hose end sprayer. So for those like people that like to use hose end sprayers, that's I guess a bonus too. But not as good as Certainty in my opinion. All right, next up is Oliver Rittem. He says, happy Friday, Ron, and all out and about mowing the lawn. I like it. I like what your priorities are, Oliver. Good job. He says, time for the second apps of Liquids and PGR. Have a good stream tonight. Very, very cool, sir. So you're on that 2-week spoon feeding program. I like it. Really, really good stuff, sir. Good job getting your mow done and getting the lawn ready this weekend for your growth regulator and other liquid sprays. So nice work. Next up, we got Mr. Tony Israel. He says, hey, Ron, due to substantial amounts of rainfall, I have standing water on areas of my Bermuda lawn, sandy soil. Should I be concerned about it? Will this cause damage? Depends on how long standing water is standing. If it's a few hours, it's not going to be a problem. If it's like days, then yeah, that's going to be an issue. And it's interesting, Tony, sandy soil typically drains better than like say clay soil, like what we have a lot of here in Georgia. So I'm surprised that you're having a lot of standing water sitting around. So if it's the case of that the standing water sitting for an extended period of time, that can lead to issues, particularly in times of year like late springtime, whenever the conditions are better or more ideal for disease issues. That's when you might run into problems. But if it's if a few hours goes by and then the lawn is draining, I really wouldn't worry about it. So it's tough to say because you didn't tell me how long it's actually sticking around. So, but hopefully the guidance I'm telling you is going to be useful as far as you figuring that out. So, I appreciate the question. Ideally, standing on my lawn again, it doesn't really matter how much rain falls. Water doesn't stay on my lawn for more than a couple of hours. Like it drains really well. If you have that problem, what I would say is consider top dressing. You said you have Bermuda, so unless you're in Florida, probably not this year, but next year, early next spring, you can do a top dressing with sand and soil. Pair that with aeration, so aerate and then top dress, and that's going to do a lot for improving the drainage. Like, I can't stress enough. I know it sounds like I'm really like overselling this, but I'm really not. Like one of the biggest benefits you get from introducing some sand to your soil profile is that the lawn just drains so much better. And assuming the area where you have the standing water isn't like a dip or a bowl. Like I'm not gonna, I'm assuming that we're covering the obvious reasons are being covered here. Like you're not telling me about an area of your lawn that literally is like a bowl where water will just collect and pool. If that's the case, you got to fix that. But if it's not, if you have a situation where the lawn is largely flat, but water you get heavy rainfall and water sits on it for a while, in that case, that's where a good aeration and then top dressing with a sand and soil blend is going to really improve your drainage. So hope that helps, Tony. Next up is Upper 510. He says, if I overseed in September, when can I use any weed control, cool season grass? So for post-emergent herbicides, most people recommend at a minimum, you want to wait 6 months at a minimum. So what I would say Upper 510 is, you could manually weed if you've got a couple of clumps. So say you did a renovation, right? The lawn was all bare and you put out grass seed and you got a couple of areas where there's like a clumps of weed, but there's no grass. If you want to spot spray those areas, that would be okay. But what I'm talking more about are like broadcast or blanket sprays. Like that you really want to avoid on cool season turf grass. Most people say really a year, but you could get by with 6 months depending on how well established the lawn is. A Bermuda lawn, 3 months, 2 to 3 months. Bermuda's a lot more hardy as far as that goes. But again, for a new lawn, the sequences that I would do is this: I would manually weed first. I just go in there and manually pull weeds. That's going to be your best option. The second option is if you got some areas where you got some concentrations of weeds, you can spot spray. So you're limiting the spray to just the areas where the weeds are. And then finally, at a distant third place would be a blanket spray. And really, while that seems like the easiest option, you really want to avoid doing that unless there's a real need for it. Most lawns don't, like the neighbor next door, like when they were moving in, because the lawn had been, like the previous neighbor had moved out and the lawn had been neglected for like 6 months or so, like they needed a blanket spray because the entire lawn was like a salad bowl. In that case, yes, blanket spray. But as far as like in your case, you sounded like you're overseeding. So you have an existing lawn already. So you have some grass. I can't see, again, I haven't seen your lawn, but I'd be hard pressed to believe that like a blanket spray of a newly overseeded lawn is really going to be necessary. Maybe it might be, but I mean, I don't, in most cases it really isn't. So thing one, I'd say manually weed. Second would be to spot spray the areas where you got the weeds. So that way you're limiting the any potential damage you're going to do to the new grass. And then finally, again, a distant third would be to blanket spray. And if you're blanket spraying, if you can really wait until like the 6 month marker, that would be best. All right. Next up, we got Daryl's in the live stream. What's going on, Daryl? Mr. Fairway Bermuda. He says, "Hey, Ron, what's up? How's it going, sir? Glad to see you in the live stream. For those of you that don't know, if you want to see another live stream, another YouTuber that grows Bermuda grass, I think you have Tiffway 419. I think that's right, Daryl. Give Fairway Bermuda some love. He's a great guy. And Daryl, I just thought about you on that topic. I believe that Real Rollers is planning to do another turf park party mid-September. I don't want to, Lee's going to come on the live stream and talk about it, but I want to say it's for some reason the 14th, the 14th or 15th is what I think it's the 14th is what he's leaning towards. That's what I'm hearing. All right. Don't hold me to that. I mean, there'll be a formal announcement. I think Lee will even come on the live stream one of these nights and talk about it. But from what I understand, there's going to be a turf park party at the Real Rollers Turf Park in September. So like about a month out from now. So if you want to make the drive again, it'd be kind of cool. It'd be cool to see you again, man. But yeah, so plan for that in case any of you guys are, interested in mowing some grass, playing with mowers, hanging out. I think it's some football games, that kind of, just cornhole, all the fun stuff. All right, next up we have Jonathan Daza. Let me check here really quick, make sure. Offered Envy saying, another great Friday with best YouTube channel. I appreciate that, sir. Thanks so much. Jonathan Dawes is up next. He says, hey, Ron, I am located in Los Angeles, City of Angels, and it is 95 degrees daily. I have turf type tall fescue and would like to know when I should apply my pre-emergent and weed control chemicals. Thanks. Okay, so for your pre-emergent, Jonathan, really, if you're talking about your fall pre-emergent, whenever soil temps are in the low 70s and trending cooler is when you're going to want to look into doing your fall pre-emergent application. For your post-emergence, again, tenacity, sedgehammer, those you could use when temps are a little bit higher, but really, if you're trying to minimize injury at all, you'd want to wait until temps are 85 degrees or cooler, and that would be the ideal time to do it. But again, if you're going to be spot spraying here and there, you may get a little bit of injury to the grasses surrounding the weeds you're spraying, but it just depends on really how bad what you're dealing with is and how badly you want to get rid of it. But I would say for your pre-emergent, low 70s trending cooler. For your post-emergent herbicides, ideally when temps are 85 degrees or cooler. If you're using sedgehammer or tenacity, you can spray those with temps being a bit higher. But again, I would limit it to spot sprays if at all possible. That's always going to be my recommendation for you. So hopefully that helps, sir. Get your pre-emergent done, and then you can do your use your post-emergent herbicides as needed. And again, spot spraying superior. Good way to go. For most people, it is the way. It is the correct answer. All right, next up we got JK. He says, happy Friday. When should I prevent brown patch and spring dead spot for next year? Was bad this year, but is filled in. Thanks, Ron. Excellent question. So JK, spring dead spot, even though it's called spring dead spot, you really prevent it in the fall. So on the calendar on the Golf Course Lawn Store, you'll notice that we recommend doing a fungicide application in October, and then again, another one in November. That is largely for preventing spring dead spot and other diseases that tend to happen in the winter months or develop during the winter months. So to prevent spring dead spot, a couple things you're going to want to do is get a fungicide app done, again, October, November. The calendar that we offer reflects that. If you want to use a granular product, Headway G is excellent. I'll show you really quickly here. If you go to the Golf Course Lawn Store, go to shop and go to fungicide insecticide. If you like liquids, go with Pillar SC. If you like granular, go with Headway G. And as I was talking about, I'll show you here really quick. If you went to Lawn Care Schedule, you'll see that the months of October has you doing your first fall fungicide application, Headway G or Pillar SC, and then November, your second fungicide application, Pillar SC or Headway. So that's what I'd recommend for that. The other thing to keep in mind too, again, getting back to preventing the conditions to keep the problem away, is limit how much nitrogen you're putting into the lawn when it gets into the fall months. So really October is when I would start really pulling it back, really start weaning the lawn off of it. If you want to do a foliar spray here and there, that's okay. But as far as like doing any heavy, just any, in other words, you don't want to, in October timeframe, I wouldn't want to see you putting the same amount of nitrogen into the lawn as you were doing during like May timeframe. So start weaning it off, start backing off the end when you start getting into the fall months. That is also going to help you prevent spring dead spots. So limit the amount of nitrogen going in the lawn in the fall, and then a fungicide app in October, November is going to do a lot for you. I started doing that, and I had no spring dead spot in my lawn this year. I was really happy about that. And if you're looking for that calendar, I'll show you here, product application calendar. I will link it here in the chat, and I'll actually even pin it so you guys will have it. So there's the calendar, and then it is now pinned as in the live stream if you're on YouTube. So hopefully that helps, JK. Brown patch, as far as like your diseases you'll tend to have more in the spring and summer months. For your fungicide app, I am a fan of doing those apps in May and June. So May, your first one, and then June, your second one. And that's really going to put you in a really good spot really until the fall rolls around. So hope that helps, sir. It's all detailed in that calendar that I just linked there in the chat. That's a pinned comment. So check that out, and that should get you in a good spot. All right, Toucan Sam is up next. He says, is there a pre-emergent that helps with spurge? I always seem to get it around this time of year. I have some post-emergents that does the job, but I'd rather not see it in the first place. Yeah, so spurge is a tough one, Toucan Sam. I'm pretty sure prodiamine is labeled for spurge. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone is going to like, fact check me or say, hey, wrong, it's not labeled for that. But I use prodiamine on my lawn in the spring, and I don't have, the only areas where I have spurge are along the edges of the lawn. So wherever the pavers are, where the sidewalk is, where the patio is, the parts of the lawn where the barrier gets disturbed a lot when I'm always edging it, that is where I will get some spurge growing in. So prodiamine should do the trick as far as keeping spurge at bay. The only areas you'll have some breakthrough if you do this is going to be, again, like the edges, the barriers, the borders. And there's not really a whole lot you can do about that, because if you're always edging your lawn, that area is always getting disturbed, and that's where spurge is gonna tend to take root. So hope that helps. If you get your pre-emergent app, your prodiamine app done in the springtime, that should do a lot for you as far as keeping spurge out of your lawn. That's what I do, and I don't have, like, throughout my entire, like, the actual back lawn, there's no spurge in the lawn itself. It's only along the edges, and very limited amounts of it. So hope that helps, Toucan Sam. Great question, and I'm sure other folks will have that. So we'll even save that one. You can become famous. We'll make that a short maybe at some point. We'll see. I'll see if I can edit that. All right, moving on to our next question. We have Trilla, the Trilla from Manila. I don't think he's really from Manila, but I like to say that. He says, hey, Ron, and happy Friday, everyone. Is it just me, or are the armyworms out earlier than expected? Yeah, it's funny. You're the second person that said that to me, that they're concerned about, they have already seen armyworms. What I would say is, if you've not done your fall insecticide, acelepryn, like this. Do I have it here? Maybe I don't. Yeah, I do, right here. Acelepryn, excellent product against armyworms. It's really excellent against any kind of turf caterpillar, that any kind of insect that's going to damage your lawn. Acelepryn is a great choice. It's available as both a liquid and a granular. So if you go to shop and then go to fungicide, insecticide, the very first thing you'll see is acelepryn G, and then for the liquid, you've got acelepryn SC. Either one of these, they're both equally effective. They both work great. They'll do a good job as far as preventing damage from armyworms, because armyworms are one of those. They're worse than grubs from a standpoint of, like, how quickly they can destroy a lawn. Armyworms can eat up a lawn really quickly. So if you have any inkling you got that going on, you want to get an insecticide like acelepryn down. And again, just to help prevent the problem in the first place, do your fall insecticide app. That is in the calendar that's linked in the pinned comment. So if you're looking for something to take care of that Trilla, I'll take care of you here. This is what I'd recommend. And that, again, I would, kind of like diseases, insect damage problems are better to prevent than try and control after the fact. Because if you look at your lawn as being destroyed by armyworms, like, you can then go use acelepryn. It's going to get rid of them. It's going to control it. But then you're still left with, the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of however long it takes your lawn to heal, to recover from the damage. Much better to not even have that issue in the first place. And, a bottle of acelepryn, a bag of acelepryn is a relatively inexpensive way of preventing that. So hope that helps. Let's see. And long 3316, I think I already answered your question about drainage and aeration. Thanks again for the super chat. And then next up, we got Gary Kellett Jr. He says, hey, Ron, I just jumped on. When is a good time to overseed a cool season lawn in Northeast Illinois? I don't have a cool season lawn. I'm not in the cool parts of the country, but most folks that I've seen do it in the September timeframe. Early September, late August timeframe is when they do their overseeding projects. So it probably would apply to you as well, Gary. So now it's probably a bit early. Late August, September timeframe is when I would look into doing seeding and overseeding, if that's what your plan is for the year. All right, next up we have R. Carter's at the house. He says, happy Friday, Ron and all. First, I want to thank you for all your great advice weekly. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's useful. Thank you for tuning in, because otherwise I'd be talking to myself, which would be kind of weird, but not the first time I've ever done that. He says, what type of mower would I need to get that low golf course cut? Again, thanks for all your weekly information. So what you're going to want to look into, R. Carter, is what's called a reel mower. If you've ever watched me mow my lawn, it's a reel mower, also known as a cylinder mower. It cuts the lawn the way a pair of scissors cuts like paper or hair. So it produces a cleaner cut, and due to the design of how the reel mower operates, you're able to run them at lower heights of cut without causing with far less chance of causing scalping or injury to the lawn. So you're going to want to look into a reel mower. There's tons of options. If you wanted to start out, you could go with a manual push reel mower. For most people, I recommend starting with a manual push reel mower, not because it's going to produce the best cut, but more so to determine if reel mowing really is for you. Because to get a lawn, to get that golf course lawn look, you're talking about mowing at least twice a week throughout the growing season. You know what I mean? In some parts of the year, whenever it's really hot and the grass is growing faster, it could be 3 times a week. And for most people, that is too much, or they think they want to do it, but then they actually get into it. They're like, man, this is kind of my style. It's taking up too much time, right? So far, far easier, far less expensive to do that, to conduct that experiment with a manual push reel mower. And then you can say, okay, I did the manual push reel mower thing. Mowing a couple times a week is not that big a deal. I actually enjoy it. It's a great exercise, and this is something I could see myself doing. At that point, now you're ready to move into a powered reel mower, which is going to be several orders of magnitude better as far as the cut quality and the kind of result you can get. But I wouldn't tell you to go out and go buy a manual reel or push powered reel mower right off the bat, unless you know that it's something that you're really going to want to commit to, because you can't reel mow your lawn the way people rotary mow, the way that most people anyway rotary mow their lawns. Most people rotary mow their lawns once a week, once every 2 weeks. That's not going to work for reel mowing. You got twice a week really is the barrier for entry with rotary or reel mowers if you want a great stand of turf grass. But for reel mowing, it's pretty much a requirement if you want the lawn to really look good. So if that's you, and you know for sure that's what you're ready to ride this train, then what I would say is probably one of the best reel mowers for the money this currently is that new mower from Reel Rollers, the Revolution 26. I want to say it's like $2,800, and given everything that's in that mower, you'd be hard pressed to spend that amount of money in a different mower and get all the features that it has. So if you're asking me, hey, I got like $3,000 to spend ish on a reel mower, what would you buy? The Revolution by Reel Rollers. Now the next other consideration is going to be like a greens mower, right? But the maintenance for those tends to be more expensive. So if you break it, they're going to cost more to fix, because even though you can buy a greens mower, I'd say I'm not going to talk about the junk ones, but you can find a one in decent shape, in good condition, for around the price you can find a Revolution. Figure between $3,000, I say between $2,000 to $4,000, depending on hours and condition, year, that kind of thing. But even though you buy a mower, a greens mower for that price, realize that you're buying a mower that when it was brand new was a 5-figure mower. Like the last time I got a quote on a Greensmaster, they were like $16,000, or probably, and that was a couple of years ago. So they're probably more expensive now. So realize that whenever you buy one, even though you're getting a greens mower for maybe $2,000-$3,000, you're really buying a piece of equipment that is really a $15,000 piece of equipment. And whenever something breaks, the price for the parts are like associated with like a $15,000 piece of equipment. Kind of like people that go out and they buy cheap Porsches, like older Porsches. Like, yeah, I got this Porsche for really cheap, but when you bought that car was brand new, it was a 70, 80, 90, 100,000, multiple $100,000 car. So when you break it, the parts are going to reflect that the car at that one point cost that much. So a greens mower, as far as if all you care about is the absolute best cut, like if the only criteria is I want the absolute best cut possible. I don't really care about the additional cost or parts if I break something. I don't care if they're a little bit less convenient to use than say something like the Revolution. All I care about is the absolute best cut. Then a greens mower is what you're going to want to look into. So like a Toro Greensmaster, or one of the John Deere mowers. Either of those are going to do a great job. Like that's going to be like the mower they use on golf courses is either a Greensmaster or a John Deere, and they are amazing machines for producing an amazing cut on turf grass. But they are expensive to buy, to maintain, and if you break them, they're more expensive to fix. So if you don't want to go that route, and you still want to get like, man, I'd say like 85%, maybe 90% of what a greens mower can do, the Revolution is a really good choice. So hope that helps. All right, next up is Fairway Bermuda. He says, "What's up, lawn lifters? What's going on, Fairway?" I've never heard that one before. That's a good one. And then Long says, "Thank you. You're very welcome." And then next up, let's see here. Damar says, "Good evening, Ron. Quick update on the effectiveness on recognition and fusillade. The combination on my centipede, on my Augustine grass, has done an amazing job of injuring and stunting the Bermuda. The fusillade has done a great job on crabgrass, on crabgrass too. Sorry for the choppy post. There's a character limit on YouTube. What I meant to say is Fusillade has done a great job on crabgrass. I was aware, but did not realize I had so much." Yeah, so here's the thing that's interesting about that, Demar. So when I was talking to the folks with Syngenta, right? Because I was actually talking about that from a standpoint of, while recognition and Fusillade, excellent combination for removing Bermuda grass in St. Augustine or zoysia, Fusillade, to your point, is also quite effective for crabgrass control. But what they were telling me is that yes, it can work for crabgrass, but the safener that's in recognition, the metcamephin, this is necessarily is going to, but it can make Fusillade slightly less effective against crabgrass. In your case, it doesn't seem like that's the case. Sounds like you got great control for the crabgrass, which is really good, because you think about it, there's two weeds that are difficult to control in a St. Augustine lawn. Crabgrass that is relatively mature, and Bermuda grass. And recognition and Fusillade, it sounds like, from based on what you're saying, is allowing you to do both of those. So great stuff. That's really, really cool to hear. Thank you so much for the feedback. If you want, go on the store, on the Golf Course Lawn Store, leave a review to that effect. It'd be really cool. I'd really appreciate it if you would not mind doing so. So if any of you guys are wondering, what on earth is he talking about? What is this recognition, this Fusillade thing that he's speaking about? So there are a couple of problems, or a couple of combinations, when it comes to controlling weeds that are a difficult problem to solve. So while I like Bermuda grass, love Bermuda grass because it's awesome, Bermuda grass, believe it or not, is not liked by a lot of people. And it's one of these grasses that if it gets in your zoysia lawn or gets in your St. Augustine lawn, heaven help you, because there's not really, or I should say there wasn't, an easy way to selectively remove Bermuda from zoysia or from St. Augustine. Recognition is a herbicide that was released by Syngenta last year. They started talking about it last year, became broadly available this year. That when mixed with Fusillade, allows you to selectively remove Bermuda grass out of zoysia and out of St. Augustine. And it's awesome. Like, all the feedback I've been getting with it has been great. People absolutely love it. So you can get recognition by itself and Fusillade by itself, or we also have a kit that includes everything you need. That includes recognition, Fusillade 2, your spreader sticker, and surfactant. It's a relatively easy product to apply because Fusillade 2 has a measuring cup built in, and if memory serves me, the rate is like just over half an ounce, like 0.55 ounces of Fusillade per 1,000. And then recognition, it comes with a measuring spoon, and you use the small end. That's labeled 0.03 of recognition in a gallon of water over 1,000 square feet. And it does a great job cleaning up Bermuda grass out of zoysia and St. Augustine. So in here, there are some before and afters. Like, this is a lawn that you look at that lawn and you say, oh man, that lawn looks really great. But that's really like almost half Bermuda and half zoysia. So the person that had this wanted to get rid of it. They used recognition and Fusillade. So this is before, and then this is the after. So you can see the Bermuda got scorched, got killed off. That's all the dead stuff. And then the zoysia looks great, right? Largely unharmed, which is really good. You go to another section of the lawn, you see there's a big patch of Bermuda that was right there. The zoysia still looks really good. So if you're looking for a way to selectively remove Bermuda out of your St. Augustine or zoysia lawn, then this is the stuff you need to use. And again, DMart, thank you so much for the feedback. Glad that it's working well for you. Again, we do carry a kit in the Golf Course Lawn Store, so if you're looking for that, we will I'll link it here in the chat for you guys. And but yeah, it's great stuff. All the feedback I've been getting from it has been really good. So I'm glad to hear that you're getting good results, and that you're also getting some crabgrass control, because from what I was told, that the control for crabgrass may be limited because of the safer, the metcamephin that's in recognition. But in your case, sounds like it's working well for you, which is awesome. Keep going. All right, next up is this, Ron, how well do you think you do on a medium leak code problem? I don't know, man. That's a hard question. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've done some, I'm not sure if you're referring to the same thing I've done. It used to be something I used to do a decade, 15 years ago, where I would do like some fun programming challenges we would do is like how small, this is when I used to run Linux, is how small can you make like an ELF binary? Like how small of a file can you make it and still have it actually load and not crash? So those are the kinds of things that I used to do. But man, I haven't done any development work in years. I'm like a manager, like director type person now. So I don't do a lot of the hands-on stuff as much anymore. So kind of miss it. Sometimes I miss it, sometimes I don't miss it. But yeah, so these days, probably not great. Just depends. It depends on the language and what the challenge is. All right, next up we have Mars Beads. Says, I'm finally looking forward to overseeding early next month. Tall fescue in Middle Tennessee. My first time doing lawn care. Awesome. Well, just here's the thing I would say, Mars Bead, is enjoy the process. When it comes to doing your overseeding, the one thing you're going to want to do is avoid pre-emergent. And then outside of that, if you can thin the lawn out a little bit, make sure you can do something, even if it's like just taking a rake to kind of, loosen the soil a little bit to help improve that seed to soil contact. That's going to do a lot for you to get a good result with your seeding project, and just enjoy it. I mean, lawn care is supposed to be fun, and at the end of the day, it's just grass. There's very few things you can do to it that we can't fix at some point. Worst case, you may have to resod, or I mean, in extreme cases, you're not going to have that problem. But what I'm just trying to say is enjoy the process. Enjoy the fact that it takes time. Enjoy the fact that it can be hard, because what was it? Was it Tom Hanks said in A League of Their Own? Like, the hard is what makes it great. Like in baseball, the hard is what makes it great. The hard is what makes like getting a great, amazing lawn great. It's funny. He's like a guy on YouTube like sent me a comment. He says, your lawn looks really good. What does it cost to maintain? What does it cost, annually to maintain a lawn like that? And the answer I think he was looking for me to tell him was like, it's this dollar amount. And I said, the cost to having the lawn that I have are two things: discipline and consistency. So those are the two things. Like the money part of it, or buying the products. I mean, you think about it. I spray products twice a month on my lawn, like once on the first and again 2 weeks later. But to really get the lawn looking the way it looks, it means mowing several times a week throughout the entire season. So the discipline to continually do it and the consistency to always do that is what it takes to create a great lawn. So the cost is really in your time and in how consistent you can be at it. So enjoy it. Enjoy the process. You know what I mean? Don't get too wrapped around the axle. Big thing I tell you as far as like something I would tell you that if you do this, you're doing it wrong, is don't apply pre-emergent if you're planning on overseeding your lawn. Outside of that, heavy rake, loosen up the soil a little bit, put your seed out, water it, and sit back and enjoy the process. All right. Terrence Stamp says, I wish there was something like Superside here in PA. There might be. I mean, there's someone in PA or some companies in PA that offer, a screened compost. I mean, it may not be the same stuff that Superside does, but I mean, someone offers a good compost product you can use for your lawn. All right. Southern Abe is up next. He says, happy Friday. I just core aerated and got the lawn sand leveled. Still hot in southern Louisiana. Now just needed to grow through. Very cool, Southern Abe. Now, the way you wrote that leads me to believe that you paid to have a service done, which, again, there's no shame in that. I completely get it, man. Yeah, to your point, now it's just patience. Just give it time. Water it. If you've got a leveling rake, something you can do to help speed up recovery is take that leveling rake and just walk over the lawn. If you want to know what I'm talking about, you're like, take a leveling rake and walk over the lawn. What kind of craziness are you speaking of, Ron? What witchcraft is that? So if you look here, this video, again, it's only 3 minutes. All I ask is 3 minutes of your time. I show you what I'm talking about as far as how to use a leveling rake to help expose the tips of the grass blades so it grows through faster. So that's something you can do if you're looking for something to do while the lawn is recovering. But all the hard work is done now, man. All you have to do is just sit back and wait. Sit back and wait and let the domination begin, right? All right, JK is up next. He says, how long between spot apps of Celsius and Certainty on Bermuda this time of year? Thanks. I wouldn't do another application any sooner than 3 weeks apart. Again, though, I say that, but really, if you're spraying Celsius and or Certainty at the correct rates and you are using surfactant, I can't stress enough, this is a big part of getting a good result with this. You really shouldn't be having to hammer those areas with Celsius and Certainty over and over and over. Like, part of the reason why these herbicides cost what they do is that if you apply them correctly, you really shouldn't have to be applying them 2, 3, 4 times. I mean, outside of like doveweed and like Virginia buttonweed, which are some more difficult weeds to control, like those guys will take more than one application. But for most broadleaf weeds, Celsius is typically a one and done, as long as you use surfactant with it. Same thing with Certainty. If you use surfactant with it for sedges, normally it's a one and done type thing. So, but to answer your question, if you need to do another application, it's going to be at least 3 weeks from the first app before I would consider spot spraying those areas again. Hope that helps, JK. But I think you will find that if, as long as you spray it at the correct rates, you really shouldn't have to get out there and, smash the lawn again with Celsius and Certainty. All right. Next up is Quincy Cordoba. He says, hey, what's a good treatment for goosegrass? Unless I overlooked, I don't recall Celsius and Certainty being listing it as a treatable weed. Yeah, goosegrass is a tough one. Goosegrass is a tough one. I have to look that one up because I actually don't get that question very often, but I think I've got it written in a blog post, and I wrote it such a long time ago. I forget what I researched and found works well for goosegrass. I think for cool season lawns there was something, but for warm season I don't know if you're gonna have an option. Yeah, goosegrass. Yeah, so Spectacle Flow will help prevent it. Your best bet is to prevent it. Yeah, and Zoysia Fusilade 2 will work. Cool season lawns, Tenacity. So here, I'm going to send you a link to this. I knew I'd done research on this at one point. So there's a blog post that I wrote on what types of weeds look like grass, and goosegrass is one of them. So let me make sure this link is going to work for you first. And yeah. So if you, actually I'll do even one better for you. I will actually find it and link you right to it. I think this will work. All right. So take a look at this blog post. I think the click to highlight will work. I think, yeah. So yeah, take a look at this blog post that I'm about to link in the chat now, and that should get you some guidance on controlling goosegrass. So for cool season, for Zoysia, Fusilade 2, for cool season grass, Tenacity, which you want to prevent it with pre-emergent. That's really going to be your best bet. All right, so let me get you squared away here. Quincy, and I'm not sure what kind of grass you have. If you got Bermuda, you're kind of out of luck, unfortunately, because you can't use Fusilade on Bermuda. But check out that blog post I just linked there. That will talk to you. That will show that talks about goosegrass. All right. Next up is D Mart. He says, D Mart. He says, awesome, Ron, with the Spanish frijole. Ron, I traveled, man. I grew up around a bunch of Dominicans, so I can order a bear, and I know when I'm being cursed at in Spanish. So how about that? I can defend myself a little bit. And then Joe Cox says, good evening. I got quoted $6,500 to install irrigation for 20,000 square feet. Does that sound reasonable? Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's not bad at all. Yeah, that's not bad. For 20,000 square feet, I think that's pretty reasonable. I would imagine you're getting like a wireless controller out of that, but because I think all the ones they do now are wireless. But yeah, that's not bad at all. No, that's not. I would absolutely do that. Yeah, that's a good number. It's a good price. You didn't say what part of the country you're in, but in Georgia, that would be a good price for doing 20,000 square feet. That's a big property. I'll put it this way. My lawn is 12,000 square feet. So almost double my lawn for $6,000 for just under $7,000. That's a pretty good deal. You're not being ripped off is what I'm trying to say. It's not a bad price. All right. Daryl says, awesome, I'll be there. Cool, nice, very cool, man. I look forward to it. Be cool to see you again. Ruben Texiera says, good job, Ron. I appreciate, or good evening, Ron. Thanks so much, Ruben. I appreciate that. And then next up, we have T1000, the Terminator 1000. He says, hi, Ron. Planning on spraying Primo Max on my Bermuda grass. What are the app rates if tank spraying 0.1 per 1,000 square feet? Yeah, so for Bermuda grass, T1000, per the label, the application rates for hybrid Bermuda grass are 0.25 fluid ounces per 1,000 on the low end, up to 0.38 fluid ounces on the high end per 1,000. That is the application rate, and assumes that you're applying the product once a month. I would not apply it that way. The way that I would recommend using Primo is to take the monthly application rate and divide that in half. So cut it in half and spray it every 2 weeks. So we've got a blog post on the Golf Course Lawn Store on plant growth regulation. Talks all about Primo. Talks about a new product we started carrying called a new EZ. And so long and short of it is, if you were going to do, say you had a 4-gallon backpack sprayer, right? And you were spraying Bermuda grass at the lower end of the application rate, so the 0.25 rate, but you're doing it cut in half and you're spraying that every 2 weeks. What you would do is, with 4 gallons of water, you would use 0.5 fluid ounces of Primo. So we've got like the Primo bottle right here. There is a measuring cup built into it. And right there, you see that marker 0.5. You would use this much Primo in 4 gallons of water and spray that over 4,000 square feet. And you're going to do that every 2 weeks. And that's on the low end. If you want to go for the higher end, the split application, you would do up to 0.8 ounces with 4 gallons of water over 4,000 square feet. So somewhere between half an ounce to 0.8 ounces, between 0.5 and 0.8 fluid ounces of Primo in 4 gallons of water over 4,000 square feet every 2 weeks is going to produce a good result for you. If you are, I'm going to send you a blog post here you can take a look at that talks all about plant growth regulator, talks about a new EZ, talks about Primo, talks about strategies for using them together. There's videos within this blog post. It's a really good one. I updated this not too long ago this year. I'll show you here in a second the one I'm talking about. So if you look here on the Golf Course Lawn Store, how plant growth regulation can make your lawn thicker and greener. You get a 2-for-1, right? And it talks about what growth regulation is, why use PGRs. This one talks about Primo, when to apply them. Talks about Primo Max. Talks about a new EZ, how they can be used together. If you move down further, like how do you apply it? Like what do you need? Like a backpack sprayer. Some tips for preventing tip burn, which is what I'm telling you right now, which is a spray at half rate every 2 weeks. And because I know you guys don't want to have to do the math, what I supplied in this blog post are those half rates for common grass types. So for cool season grasses, for just Primo, that's what you'd go with. For warm season grasses, for just Primo, you would do that. If you are doing Primo Max and a new EZ, you're using both those growth regulators together, then I've got split application rates for both of those as well too. So you're good to go. For new EZ, is what you would do. So to help you with all that, I'm going to send you a link to this blog post in the chat. I like when folks read the blog posts because actually a lot of work goes into writing them, believe it or not. And I enjoy it when people actually take advantage of them. So there you go. That blog post is everything you're going to need to know about plant growth regulator. What I will tell you, T1000, for someone that's getting into it and you're starting out, if you have 4 gallons of water, right? 4-gallon backpack sprayer, and you look at that, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, half an ounce? You can look at that half an ounce and you're going to pour it into the 4 gallons of water and you're going to be like, there's no way. There's no way that little bit would be enough to produce a result on my lawn, but it will work. But I would, if I could beg you to do one thing, here are my words. If I could beg you to do one thing, is stick to that rate range. 0.5 on the low end. If you want to go on the higher end, you can go up to 0.8. So you would do 0.5 and then 0.3. That adds up to 0.8. That's as high as you want to go. You don't need to go any heavier than that. It's going to produce a good result. If you decide to get a little heavy-handed with how you pour this, that's when you start getting into issues with yellowing, with tip burn, potential damage. And to avoid those problems, just apply it at the rates. Half an ounce or 0.8 ounces on the high end, going to produce a really good result. So stick to the application rates with growth regulator. Stick to the application rates with literally anything you apply, but especially with growth regulator, because for people that are new, I don't know what it is. It looks like you're just using so little of this stuff that there's no way it could work, but it doesn't take a lot of the stuff to produce a good result. So again, the rates that I linked there in the chat, follow those. You're going to get a good result with them. And enjoy it. I always tell folks when it comes to PGR, there's life before growth regulator and there's life after growth regulator. So the one negative I'll tell you is that once you start using the stuff, you're never going to want to stop. So I literally when the season starts out, like every year when March, April time frame rolls around, I just can't wait. I'm looking at the lawn. I'm saying, okay, it's almost ready. It needs to grow a little bit more, a little bit more, and I'll be ready to start using Primo on it. And that's, because then then the turf just tightens up. It just color is better. Tons of reasons to use growth regulator. So that blog post will get you all squared away. If you need anything else, do let me know. But enjoy the process and please stick to the application rates. Do not go heavy. All right, Ruben Texiera is up next. He says, "Hi, I have Kentucky bluegrass and tall fescue. My lawn is looking really green." Awesome. "What do you recommend for the upcoming fall? Any fertilization suggestions? They say to mow at the lowest height at the end of the year." So there's a lot going on with that, Ruben. So as far as fertilizer goes, I'll tell you what I'd recommend. Great option for cool season turf grass and for really for all grass types. But if you go to the golf course lawn store, you go to shop, and then you go to lawn fertilizer. Now, assuming you have a soil test, and those results say that you need phosphorus, if that's the case, then our complete 14-7-14 is a great option. That's what I would go with. A good fertilizer that I'm going to switch to in the fall is this guy right here. The Stress-Tol 024, great option because the higher potassium is this blend is a great fertilizer for producing a nice deep green without pushing too much growth. So whenever a lawn is about to see more stressful conditions, you have a cool season lawn, so not necessarily does apply to you as much. For like someone like me with Bermuda, as it's starting to go dormant, like higher potassium is a good thing to give the lawn. So this would be a good option if you want to go with a higher potassium fertilizer. Another option, probably our most popular fertilizer, is Humic Max. So either one of these, Humic Max or the Stress-Tol 024, either one of these would be excellent options. The complete 14-7-14 I really would only recommend if you're doing, say, a seeding project. So you wanted like a balanced fertilizer to help with established roots, or your soil test results show that your soil is deficient in phosphorus. In that case, then I would go with something like this. So I'll send you a link here in the chat as far as where you can find that collection page. But Humic Max or the 12024 is where I would go with. That's going to be your jam, man. It's gonna get you in good spot. That's what's gonna cover you for granular. If you want to do liquids, then you could use our carbon kit, or you could use, I can show you that really quick too. For liquids, that covers you for granular. I already showed you that, but for liquids, you can use like the 901C carbon kit. This guy right here comes in a 5,000 square foot or 10,000 square foot size. You could use that. Or if you want more of an all-in-one, like, one liquid fertilizer that does a bit of everything really well, the new fertilizer that we released this year that we partnered with the Andersons to develop, the Golf Course Lawn 22-3 is an excellent choice. You've got a bit of everything in there, some nitrogen, your phosphorus, your potassium, got some fulvic acid, some kelp. It's got a micronutrient package in it, so it's got a bit of everything. As far as if you could only use one liquid fertilizer that will for the most part cover your bases fairly well, this is an excellent choice. So you can pair this along with your granular fertilizer and you'll be in great shape. So you can find all those at the link that I just posted there in the chat for you, as far as to the collection page, and that's going to put you in a good spot. As far as mowing, adjusting your mowing height at the end of the year, I don't do that. I don't really change my height of cut on my lawn, not drastically anyway, throughout the entire year. So like I started out at like 5/8, and then I ended up like I normally do around 3/4 of an inch. So the lawn's at 3/4 of an inch right now, and it's going to be that way all throughout throughout the rest of the summer, throughout the fall, throughout the winter. It's going to be at 3/4 of an inch. I don't really let the lawn grow out that much. I'm not sure as far as mowing at the lowest height. Maybe that's a thing for cool season turf grass. I can't say for sure, but for warm season grass, like you don't necessarily need to scalp the lawn or cut it shorter at the end of the year. Perhaps it's a cool season grass thing, but I don't change my height of cut. So I would do a bit more research and make sure that's actually good advice for you to follow at getting close to the end of the year with your Kentucky bluegrass and fescue lawn. All right, Ruben Texeria, he says, "I always wanted to know, how did you start being an expert on lawn maintenance? You have motivated me to make sure my lawn is superb." Yeah, so great question. So whenever I moved into this house almost 10 years ago now at this point, I looked at the lawn and I said, man, this has got a lot of potential, really big and flat. This could look really good. And I just began working on it, and I started out YouTube. I started the YouTube channel as a way to document what I was doing on the lawn, so I could look back and see how it progressed. And then folks started enjoying it and started taking an interest in it, and it grew to where it is now. Now, as far as how I got better at it, I have a couple of friends in the professional turfgrass industry that, like I'd say, took me under their wings and taught me a whole lot, and were willing to answer my questions. And I just always, kind of my approach to anything really, is when I always look at something and I always ask, how can it be better? So when I look at the lawn, I say, okay, it looks really good, but how can I make this better? And what that's going to do, if you take that approach to really anything in life, it sends you down this rabbit hole where you're always trying to optimize. Like you're just you're never satisfied. It's never good enough. You're always looking for ways to improve whatever you're doing and make it a little bit better. So if it's like weed control, how can I make this more effective? I mean, if it's like growing, a nice green lawn, how can I make that more effective? How can I get a lawn? Like there's a lot of like conventional wisdom on what works for growing a lawn, but how do you know? Like if you test it, if you change things up a bit, what happens? If you decide you're going to go with a case in point, right? A common, if you ask someone like how much nitrogen do you need to put on a Bermuda lawn for it to look good, like the conventional wisdom will say a pound of nitrogen every month is what you got to do throughout the growing season for it to look good. And that's actually, while that will work, not necessarily that it's not strictly necessary. If you're focused, for example, if you're focusing on creating healthy soil, which is what I teach and I promote, is focus on creating the best possible soil possible. And then an amazing lawn is a byproduct. Like you can't help but have a great looking lawn, or at least like green, deep, rich, healthy grass if you have great soil. So just the approach again that I take to everything that I take to work, to martial arts, to I don't know, just anything. Like I'm someone that never, I don't like being bad at things. So I don't do a lot of stuff. So I pick a few things that I'm really, truly interested in. And I spend a lot of time getting really good at it. And then, I'll seek out people that are smarter than me, that are willing to share their knowledge, do a lot of research on my own, and then test on my own. And then that's, if you do that, I mean, remember now, this is coming up on 10 years working on this lawn. Like if you do anything for 10 years with the approach of like, you're trying to get better at it, it's really hard to not get better at it. And that's largely of how I've done and grown my lawn to where it is now. And also to everything else, like the content and the store and all the blog posts and all that kind of stuff. Like a big part of why I do the live streams and why I enjoy it is a couple things. One, I get to learn a lot about like the challenges you guys are facing in your lawns, like the challenges you guys are having. So it's a way for me to learn like what topics or what things that people care about. Cause I have a warm season lawn. So I know what warm season turf grass issues are and the things that I really care about. But but believe it or not, I know I was shocked by this too. Not everybody has Bermuda. Not everybody likes Bermuda, right? So it's a way to learn about other people's problems is by doing this live stream. So it's a way for me to learn and get topics for content. Another part of it is, believe it or not, when I was younger, another reason why I like doing the live stream is when I was younger, I had a really bad speech impediment where I would stutter a lot, like a ton. I would try and start talking and I would start stuttering and I'd have to like hit my leg to make myself to get the words out. So and I still speak too fast. I mean, a lot of my friends tell me I've gotten a lot better and a lot of it is due to this. So when I sit here and I'm talking to a camera for hours and hours each week, it's a way to help improve like making my mouth or make my brain match what my mouth is doing. So I think a lot faster. I could think my brain works faster than my mouth works, which is why I tend to eat my words. So it's also that too. So trying to get better at speaking and at presenting information and trying to explain things in a way that people can understand it is another reason why I do this. So there's a lot of, I mean, again, I want to get better at it. I want to enjoy I actually enjoy this. I mean, I enjoy learning. I enjoy helping folks out with their lawns, and the live stream is a great way to help you guys and learn what your challenges are. Gives me ideas for content, so it's like a win-win for everyone. But yeah, the long term of how I got better at it is that I've been doing it almost 10 years now, and it's really hard to be bad at something if you like take the approach of always scrutinizing your work. If you pick anything and you're never happy with it, you can always look for a way of making it better. It's really hard to be bad at anything. Doesn't matter what it is. All right, next up is Antoine Clacken. I always like saying his name every week. He says, happy Friday, everyone. What's going on, Antoine? And then next up is Rad 1986. He says, hey, Ron, last week I asked you about doing an early dethatch work on my Kentucky bluegrass to get a head start on my fall leveling project. You made a comment about not recommend doing any dethatching, but instead to do a light verticut or turf rake. Kind of left me a bit confused. I see lots of people recommending dethatching. Could you talk a bit more on this and why you don't recommend it? Yes. Okay. So here's why. It's easier to talk. I can tell you, but it's easier to show. And I will use Owlet as an example for this. because their website actually has both the tools and it makes it easier to show what I'm talking about. All right, so this is, let me get a dethatcher up here and get a turf rake up. Okay, so for most lawns, when you think about dethatching is incredibly aggressive as far as a cultivation practice. So what you got here, this is a turf rake or slash scarifier, depending on who you talk to, right? Like for their home mowers, they call it a scarifier. For the professional mowers, they call it a turf rake. It's pretty much the same piece of equipment. If you're talking about doing something like this is going to help to gently remove dead debris, loose material. It is going to help lightly thin out the grass a little bit. And it's a gentler way of accomplishing what it is I think you're trying to do. Now compare that to this, which is a dethatcher. Now if you look at that, it's a solid metal blade with hooked edges. And with most people, as far as what a dethatcher is going to do to your lawn, if you run it on it, it tends to be a lot more aggressive than turf raking or verticutting. So we've talked about turf raking, we've talked about dethatching. Now let's talk about verticutting, so you can see the difference. So if you look at a verticutter, literally what this is are vertical blades that you set up to be 2 to 4 millimeters above the surface of the soil, and then you run it over your lawn. And what it does is, instead of like tearing and ripping at the grass, which is what a dethatcher does, a verticutter like literally cuts like slits. It cuts the runners. It's a gentle way to thin out the lawn, which is a better way, in my opinion, of getting your lawn ready for like an overseed. It's gonna thin out the lawn. It's gonna help improve that seed to soil contact. But it's not. But this, even though this has more blades, is not going to be nearly as aggressive as doing something like this to your lawn. So what I think, what you really coming on across here is a difference in terminology. Like a lot of people say dethatching when what they really mean is like scarification or turf raking. And for most people, very few lawns, in my opinion, truly need dethatching. Most of them can be cleaned up with like verticutting or several rounds of turf raking. Like that will do a good job, because the idea is to get the result we want while minimizing stress and injury to the grass. And verticutting and turf raking slash scarifying is a gentler and an easier, or it's a gentler way to do that, to accomplish that, versus dethatching. A lawn that you might dethatch would be, let's say you had a lawn that was neglected for several years, right? And people like played football on it. So it was like matted down and thick and it was never taken care of. It was like a big thatch layer. And you're in that case, yeah, then you could go out there with a dethatcher and really clean a lot of that trash out. But it's one of those things that even after you dethatched, you would then transition to like a verticutter or a turf rake for your regular maintenance. Like a dethatcher is not something you really should have to do regularly on a lawn on turf that is well maintained, in my opinion. So that's why I said what I said. I'm not opposed to you using a cultivation practice to thin the lawn out. I would just want you to do so in a way that minimizes damage to the turf. And dethatching, in my opinion, for like most lawns, is far too aggressive. Verticutting or turf raking is a better option. Even if you just don't, even what you did was turf raking. So like several rounds of turf raking or a couple of passes with a verticutter is better. It's going to be less injury, less trauma to the turf than using a dethatcher on it. So that's my reasoning behind it. Hopefully that helps. If you want to see the results as far as like, the effectiveness of using a dethatcher, I did a live stream last year on where I showed verticutting, turf raking, and then a cleanup mow after I was done. And you'd be shocked at how much material verticutting and turf raking can remove from the lawn. And if you look at this process, I actually live streamed it. You look at the lawn when I'm done, and it doesn't look like it was been in like a 12-round boxing match with Mike Tyson. It doesn't look like it was all beat to within an inch of its life. It still looks good. It recovers faster. So you get the results while minimizing the damage, which is really what we want. Let me find this live stream. It was from like May of last year. So I'm gonna look for it really quickly and I'll link it to you here in the chat. So Rad, I think what we're talking about is just differences in terminology. Again, not opposed to thinning out the turf. I just have a way that I would recommend that you do it and there's a lot of upside with really no downside for doing it the way that I recommend. All right, so this is, I found it. This is the live stream that talks about that. So at rad, and this is verticutting live stream, Yep, so you can see it all. You can see verticutting, turf raking, Animo, and I think I even apply Essential G in that live stream as well too. So you get to see all of it. So watch that, and you'll see the whole process. And at that point, you'll see that, hey, maybe Ron's onto something about this whole verticutting versus dethatching thing. All right, he says, I would like to mention that I have a cordless Sunjo dethatcher scarifier that has a height adjustment. I would not be using one of those larger gas-powered dethatchers. Okay, so yes, so a Sunjo would be okay. A Sunjo is not going to be aggressive like what that I'm showing you there from what that cartridge that Alan has. Like a Sunjo is not going to do what this would do to your lawn. That's a different animal altogether. Like you can actually use a Sunjo to verticut. So yeah, again, I think it's more a situation where we are, I don't say confusing, but more just like a differences of terminology, more so than like, like I'm opposed to like verticutting or I'm opposed to dethatching. I think when most people say dethatching, what they mean is a way of thinning out the turf and doing things to help improve that seed to soil contact. And verticutting and turf raking, in my opinion, is a superior way of doing that. So hope that helps. Okay, Jason Mahan is up next. He says, good evening, Ron. Second fall for a newer Tifway lawn. Okay. Last year I put down a granular pre-emergent in the fall. I still had a ton of POA breakthrough. I've since purchased a flow zone. Upgrades. I like that. I'd like to jump over to Spectacle Flow and unsure of the tip I need to purchase. Also, should I do a split app or all at once when the time comes? Go Dogs. Man, listen, you know what? This is an excellent question and you ended it perfectly. Well done. So as far as I'll answer your question in reverse. So as far as the spray tip you're going to want to use is like a floodjet tops type spray tip, a spray tip that's going to produce a larger droplet because we're talking about pre-emergent. So you want a larger droplet to get past the grass and into the soil. So a floodjet is what you're going to want to go with. And I have a link to one of those right here. So let me get you squared away on that. So this is the spray tip you're going to want to use. It's all like $9 or $10, not that much. So there you go with that. And then as far as Spectacle, I've done it both ways. I've done an application, a single application in September, which was, we're in 2024. So in 2022 going to 2023, so to the fall of 2022, I did this single application right around 0.20 ounces of Spectacle Flow per 1,000, one app, and that did a great job with preventing Poa annua. This past year, because people were asking, well, I've heard you can do a split app. How does that work? I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's find out. So this past year, so from 2023 going into 2024, I took the rate that I would use. I used the previous year, cut it in half, and I did an application in September and then another one in early December. And the results on my lawn were the same. So if you want to, and if you don't mind going out and having to spray in November, December, which again in Georgia doesn't really matter because we don't really have like real winters here, then you could do that route. And which would, in that case, you get Spectacle, and you would, here's a pro tip. If you have a Primo Max bottle, this is what I use to measure out Spectacle Flow. So you get one of these old ones, you just make sure you label it. Spectacle is white in color, so you're not going to confuse it. But like label it adequately and then use this to measure out your Spectacle Flow because it's got the measurements right there on the bottle. Makes it easier for you to get it right. But yeah, so 0.10 ounces, one in September and then again in November to December timeframe is going to do a great job for you. So just depends on whether you feel like doing it once or spraying twice. Either way will work well. I've tested both and they both produce excellent results. So I hope that helps. And in case you don't have it, we do carry Spectacle Flow on the golf course lawn store under the weed control section. But yeah, you've got the floodjet tip and you've got the rates. And in the product description on the golf course lawn store, we also cover the application rates as well there as well too. So you should be all good to go, sir. You should go out there and conquer and keep that Poa annua out of your lawn or severely reduce it anyway, right? All right, next up is Rashid Turner. He says, what do you think about lawn leveling on a weak lawn, meaning some bare spots and other growth challenges? I mean, leveling your lawn is mildly stressful to it. If you go light, and by light, let me define light, 1/4 of an inch on the low end to 1/2 an inch of material on the high end, that would be okay. The thing I would say, Rashid, is we want to figure out why the lawn is weak. Kind of like what I was saying earlier in the live stream, we kind of want to figure out this conditions, the problem that's causing the lawn to be the way it is. Because like grass wants to grow. Like grass was growing before any of us were here, and it'll keep growing long after we're all gone. So if grass isn't growing on your lawn, there's a reason for it. Maybe it's a nutrient deficiency. Maybe there's some debris under right under the soil that's causing a problem. Maybe there's not getting enough sunlight. If any of those things are true, then you doing a lawn leveling is not going to fix that. So we want to figure out why is this grass not doing well? Do I have a nutrient problem? The way you would figure that out is by doing a soil test. The one that I recommend is the one that we carry from My Soil. These are awesome. They're really easy to use. You get your results in about a week. And once you've figured that out, then you can say, am I getting enough sunlight? Because grass needs sunlight to do well. Is there any debris under near the surface? Because really anything that's within 6 inches of the surface is going to negatively impact how well your lawn does, especially when you get into the summer months when it gets really hot. So once we've diagnosed why we have bare areas in our lawn, then you can correct that. And then if you want to also do a lawn leveling, that would be fine too. But again, I go light. I would really recommend that you go light. There's no reason to get out there and beach the lawn. You can always do multiple rounds of top dressing if you want to. 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch is what I would recommend, which works out to about a cubic yard of material per 1,000 square feet. So if you're wondering how much do I need to be able to put down about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, 1 cubic yard of material over 1,000 square feet is going to be about right for you. So hope that helps, Rashid. Great question. You're very welcome, Mars Beads. And then he says, when you mention real mowers, you don't mention the California trimmers. What's your opinion on them? And have you vetted the catalyst? So California trimmers, I don't like the propulsion system on them. I'm not a fan of the propulsion system on the California trimmers. That's why I don't recommend them. The catalyst, I've never seen one in person. So until I actually get my hands on one and actually get to use it, I can't tell you. I mean, that's typically what I tell you when it comes to real mowers. I can tell you about a True Cut, a Greens mower, or the Greens Master, the Allet mowers, Swarmix. I used that one time when Railroads lent me one, and the Revolution 26. So I can speak about the mowers that I know. I can't speak about John Deere's. I imagine they're awesome because they don't typically make bad mowers. I mean, they're the mower of the PGA Tour, right? So, but as far as the catalyst, I've never seen one or used one. I've never used one myself. I've seen pictures of it, but I've never actually used one myself. But the old school California trimmer, I don't like how the mower is propelled. It's along the lines of how True Cuts are propelled, similar. And I don't like what it does to the lawn whenever you use those mowers on them, which is why and again, that is personal preference. There's people that have California trimmers and absolutely love them. So don't take the fact that I'm not a fan of them, of the traditional ones anyway, to mean that they're a bad mower. Pretty much any mower set up properly that's sharp is going to produce a good result. You can get a good result cutting your lawn. It's just that if I had a mower to live with every day, it would not be my first choice. Before the Revolution 26 was a thing, if I had an option between a McLean, a trimmer, or a True Cut, I would have told you a True Cut. Now that things have changed quite a bit with True Cut, between those four, if I had a choice between, and again, I haven't seen the cows, but between the McLean, a trimmer, a True Cut, or the new Revolution 26, by a substantial margin, the Revolution 26 is what I would go with. For the main reason that based on what you pay, that mower punches well above its weight. It comes with a nice roller. It's well balanced. It produces an excellent cut. So for that reason, it's more along. It's got it's propelled by a nice big solid rear drum, so it stripes better. It minimizes ruts and hot spots in the lawn. So for those reasons, I like that type of mower more so than I do True Cuts or McLean's. So that's my reasoning behind it. But again, you're asking, what I'm saying is my opinion. There's people that would disagree with me, and that's fine. But the trimmer, the catalyst, I've not vetted it. I have not even seen one in person myself as yet. So one day, I'm sure someone around here will have one, and I'll be able to check it out, and I'll be able to tell you what I think about it. Righty. All right, next up is Pro Ultra 750 says, what's your rate of per diamond should I go for fall pre-emergent? Spectacle Flow is out of budget. What kind of grass? Okay, I'm guessing you have warm season grass. So if you are if you're going with, if you have warm, let me start over. So the question is, what rate of prodiamine should I use for fall pre-emergent? I'm assuming you have warm season grass based on the fact that you're talking about spectacle flow. If your lawn, your grass type is say Bermuda, Zoysia, the annual limit for prodiamine is 0.83 ounces. So if you're going to try and do 2 applications of prodiamine to try and extend the coverage, what I would say is take that annual application rate, that annual limit of 0.8, we'll call it that, and split it in half. So you would do 0.40 in late August, early September, and then do another 0.40 in October, November timeframe. That's going to extend the coverage that you get out of prodiamine. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you do this in the springtime, you're going to have to rotate to a different pre-emergent because you've already used up your annual limit for prodiamine. So Dimension, dithiopyr is a good option for your spring pre-emergent. So hope that helps as far as using prodiamine as your fall pre-emergent. But I would almost try and convince you though, dude, man, is to get find somebody else that you can go in on a bottle of spectacle and just do it that way, because it is really that. I'm telling you, I've done prodiamine by itself. I've done Dimension by itself. I've done prodiamine, simazine, and imazaquin. So essentially what Coastal is, which is like a poor man's spectacle flow. I've done that combination, and I've done spectacle. And by far, not even by a close margin, by far, spectacle is way better than any of those. So, I mean, prodiamine, you can do it. You will get some breakthrough, but if you got anybody else that you can split a bottle with, I would highly recommend going with spectacle flow. It really is that good. The reason why it costs what it costs is because it really is that good. So just putting it out there, especially if what you care about is Poa annua. It really doesn't get much better than spectacle for warm season turf grass. Okay, next up, okay, Quincy, you're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm not here about your grandmother's lawn, but I'm glad to hear we got you all covered. And then Rashid Turner says, others have mentioned adding fertilizer after sanding. In your videos, you mentioned adding it before the sand. Do you believe there's a difference? Well, let's talk about this. Let's think about it. So whenever you apply a granular fertilizer, what's one of the things you do? You water it in, right? Why do you water it in? Because when it's just sitting on the top of the grass, it's not really doing a whole lot. Like granular fertilizer, granular products need to get into, in most cases, need to get into the soil to begin to work, right? So if we think about what we're doing when we top dress or we level a lawn, we are spreading a thin layer of sand and or soil over the lawn. So it makes sense that if the fertilizer has to get into the soil anyway, why wouldn't we, if after we're done with our core aeration, why wouldn't we put the fertilizer down first and then lay the sand and soil on top of it? Because we're kind of fast tracking the process, right? We're already we're literally laying sand and soil on top of the fertilizer versus aerating, top dressing, putting out sand and soil, and then putting the fertilizer on top of it and watering it in. It's like you're creating more work for the fertilizer to get into the soil is what I'm trying to say. Like there is an advantage to doing it, to sandwiching it in between. So if you core aerate and then do your fertilizer and granular biostimulant app, and then you top dress on top of it, if you think about that, you are basically putting it into the soil and then just covering it over, which is why I recommend that approach versus doing your top dressing and then fertilizing after the fact. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, right? So hope that helps, Rashid. If you just think about it for yourself, that that will make it gel for you as to why I recommend going that route. I mean, is it a night and day difference? Probably not. I mean, if you were to go out and top dress your lawn and put fertilizer down, would it still work? Sure, it still would work. But if you just think about it, why not be more optimal? The question you're asking would be say I aerate my lawn. Do you think it would be better to aerate your lawn and then top dress it and then put fertilizer out versus, because again, fertilizer's got to get in the soil, you aerate your lawn. Now look, your lawn has literally got holes all throughout it, and the fertilizer needs to get into the soil, and those holes are a great way to do that. So why not take advantage of the fact that everything is all opened up, and then do your make top dressing the last step in what you're doing. So that's my reasoning behind it. It's worked well for me. And again, if you just think about it logically, it makes more sense than doing it the other way. Again, you're not committing some cardinal sin either way, but if you're just trying to be more optimal, it makes sense that you would do the granular inputs prior to putting more soil and sand down on top of the lawn. All right, and then next up, we got T1000. You're very welcome, T1000, no problem at all. James Smith says, late to the show, So much rain this week in Raleigh. Felt like I had to swim back in. What to drink tonight? I'm going easy almond milk tonight. Man, you know what, James? I'm gonna disappoint you tonight. It's just plain old H2O. It's just water. Nothing else in it. I could show you. I don't want to make I can't do it. It's got too much in there. I'll spill it on my desk. But just water. No lemonade. No Arnold Palmer. Just water. And James says, "Can we know Ron sleep better with the likes? Make sure we give him a thumbs up." Yes, guys, gals, please do that. I really do appreciate it. Cost you absolutely nothing in the process. All right. Hey, we got Ron. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? I don't know, Jose. I see you there in the live stream. Hopefully you're doing all right. And then next up, we have T1000. He says, "I hear you loud and clear, and I will follow at the appropriate rate." Please do. Please do. Because it's like, it's like, I don't want you to have a bad experience with the grocery regulator and be like, "Oh, see, this PGR thing won't work for me. People say it's so awesome, and look, I ruined my lawn with it." If you stick to the rates, you won't. So stick to the rates. Just stick to the rates. I promise. I promise it'll be all right. All right. Next up is 636JC. Says, "Hey, Ron, my front lawn is super hard. I have been taking care of my lawn this year. I have been adding once a month next products and aerate and humic 12, but the lawn is still hard. How can I improve it so I can overseed?" Yeah. So what I would tell you is that in my opinion, the best way to relieve compaction is with aeration of some sort, like mechanical aeration. So either like spike aeration, kind of okay, but the best is hollow tine aeration. The products you're talking about, while they can help with like increasing and stimulating microbial activity, they are not very effective, at least not in comparison to like mechanical aeration for relieving a compacted soil. If you think about it, right? If you have like a lawn, let's say we'll use this as our example. We have a soil test kit or a lawn, right? And it's compacted. And now we go out and we run a piece of equipment over this that punches holes all throughout this and removes soil from those holes. So now you've got all these voids, all these open areas that this lawn that's really compacted and hard can then relax a little bit. You got all these open areas for it to kind of relax into. And if you've ever walked on a lawn that's just been aerated, it feels kind of soft, not say squishy, but it feels softer. You can kind of feel the soil moving around under your feet. So if you're having a very compacted soil, I would highly recommend core aeration. If you don't do it yourself, there are services you can pay to do it. That is going to do you're going to get far better results than doing what you're doing with just that liquid product stack. What I would say is this: like core aerate your lawn, and if you have those liquids, you can spray those after you're done core aerating your lawn. That's no problem with doing that, but just relying on that alone is not in my opinion, not an effective way of relieving compaction in any kind of a reasonable time frame. So when it comes to relieving compaction, mechanical, put a machine on it, core aeration. And again, if you don't want to do it yourself, pay someone to do it, and you'll notice a big difference in just like how much softer, as far as compaction rates after you're done with a core aeration job. So hope that helps, JC. Need anything else, let me know. We got a super chat from Mr. Dan Lynch. Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Super chat received.
No question, just a super chat? Or maybe you have a question later on. At any rate, thank you so much for the super chat, sir. I do appreciate it. And for your super chat, I believe you are now our show sponsor. So let me get up here and correct that. All right. So there you go. Your name in lights for whatever that means to you. Thanks, sir. Appreciate the super chat. And then next up, we have the hardest part, guys, is whenever I do this, I have to find out where I left off. Okay. Is Rad 1986. He says, "Have you ever heard or seen anyone use a Lanzi style compost spreader for leveling mix on the lawn? I'm considering buying one, but not sure how well it can work." I've never used one myself. I think Devin has one of those, and I think he liked it. I think he liked the results he got with it. But I've never used one myself, so I can't say from personal experience how well they work. I would just get on YouTube and search, and I'm sure I think there's tons of content. Just see what people are saying about it. I imagine it would work okay, but I don't have direct experience to be able to tell you, yeah, awesome, or thumbs up or thumbs down. I think it'd be just fine though. All right, next up is James Smith. He says, "I'm not sure if you've covered this already, but do you have tips for product application after having so much rain in such a short period of time? We got overrun with the rain gauge 3 times this week." Yeah, so as far as product application goes, if you are doing your your foliar sprays, right? Like, so you got to get your growth regulator out and your liquid biostimulants and fertilizer. You're really just going to want to wait for a patch of dry weather. If you can find 4 hours of dry weather, you can get your growth regulator and liquid fertilizer sprays out. That's not going to be a problem. If the lawn is overgrown a little bit because of all the rainfall and you haven't been able to mow, I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have. All you can do is just like slowly work your way back down, right? If you want to maintain the green, I would say just step the lawn back down over a couple of weeks. That's going to be your best bet for getting the habitat cut back to where it was, while also maintaining the color. But as far as your inputs, you just got to wait for a small patch of dry weather. Primo, the Miramichi Green Carbon Kit that we carry, the new liquid fertilizers, all of those just don't need very much time. I mean, if you get 4 hours of dry weather, that's really all you need to get them out, spray them, and then they'll get taken up, and then you're good to go. So that is what I would recommend as far as you getting your apps done when you're getting a lot of rain. You just got to wait for a patch of dry weather. So it's a good problem to have, though, James. I mean, a lot of people would love to have the issue you have with getting a lot of rainfall. All right. Next up is Jonathan Camrado. He says, "Happy Friday, Ron. Thanks. Thank you for the golf course lawn store extremely fast shipping. All my products arrive super quick. Time to spray army worms and grubs. First time this year using your Celiprin. Yeah, we try and ship pretty quickly, man. I mean, we do our best. I mean, we don't always get it right, but that's one of the things we really try and get done. Like if someone orders something from us, goal is within a business day to get it on its way. It doesn't always happen that way. Some things, like if you order like a super sack of Essential G or carbonized PN, the lead time on that is a little bit longer. But for the most part, we try and get, especially like insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, we try and get those out as within a business day. We try to ship them as quickly as possible. If not same day, the following business day. So glad to hear that that's being noticed. I will definitely let the team know. They appreciate it. And then and Acelepryn is a great product. You're gonna like it. It's a great insecticide. And next up, you have Brian Baldino. He says, "Does the prodiamine you sell prevent nutsedge?" No, I don't think so. I don't believe that prodiamine is labeled. You have to check the label, but I don't believe prodiamine is labeled to prevent nutsedge. I think for nutsedge, there's a herbicide, there's a pre-emergent called I think Pennant Magnum is labeled to control nutsedge. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I believe if you look into one called Pennant Magnum, I believe that one is labeled to prevent nutsedge. But prodiamine, to my knowledge, isn't labeled for that. No, Brian. Again, I'm pretty sure not. It's not. All right. Next up is T1000. He says, "Ron, one last question. Can I mix propiconazole and Primo Max and not harm Bermuda on the lawn?" If your question is, can I apply propiconazole and Primo Max and not harm the lawn? The answer is yes. Would I mix them together? No, I would not do that. Reason being is that for most fungicide apps, propiconazole being a fungicide, is that you apply them, and outside of a couple of edge cases, like fairy ring is one of them, and there's a couple others, you want to water them in after application, whereas Primo, you do not. So you're mixing a product that is designed to be watered in after application, and by that reason, would benefit from using a spray tip with a larger droplet size with a product that is designed for foliar uptake and is best applied with a fine droplet. So Primo with a fine droplet, propiconazole with a larger droplet. You could do them on the same day if you wanted to, but I would not do them together. I would not mix them and spray them at the same time. I would do them separately for the reasons that I just explained. All right, Progression Decibel is up next. He says, "Greetings from Human as Heck, Cumming, Georgia." He says, "LOL, about Fusilade 2. If using it to kill goosegrass, is it safe to use in Bermuda? No. If I carefully spot, spray, and avoid the Bermuda." I mean, you can try it, but Fusilade is going to damage Bermuda grass if you get it on it. I'll put you this way. Here's how effective Fusilade is. Like glyphosate by itself for controlling Bermuda grass it's good. It works. But like glyphosate and Fusilade is like the master combination, in my opinion. Like you mix glyphosate and Fusilade, thing of beauty. Like absolutely smokes Bermuda grass. So if you want to if you're willing to tolerate some injury, then sure, but it is going to injure the Bermuda. So if you want to use it on the goosegrass, fine, but go into it knowing that area is going to get damaged. So it's really your call as to whether that's worth it to you, as far as like tolerating a bit of damage. And if you don't mix Fusilade with glyphosate, the Bermuda will likely recover. It likely will come back, but it's still going to get injured. you're still gonna give it a pretty big ouchie. So it's really your call whether a little bit of ugliness, a little bit of black eye in the Bermuda is worth getting rid of the goosegrass. All right, progression decimal. Question 2. He says, for landscape beds with clover, Virginia buttonweed, and spurge, do you like Fusilade 2 or Celsius? Okay, so if it's a landscape bed and you don't require selective control, I wouldn't use either of those. I would use glyphosate because that's less expensive and it will control those. And it's because you're talking about a mulch bed, right? So you're not really trying to protect any kind of turf grass. So Fusilade and Celsius are more expensive than glyphosate, and glyphosate will control all those weeds you spoke about. That's a fraction of the cost. And again, you're not really looking for selective control. The only situation where I might use Fusilade in a mulch bed is if you have Bermuda grass and you're trying to control it. That is a situation where I would mix Fusilade and glyphosate, and then that's going to produce really good control for the Bermuda grass. But for the weeds you're talking about there, you really glyphosate by itself should do a pretty good job. Again, you can do those if you want, but it's an expensive approach to solve that problem, especially since because part of why Celsius costs what it costs is because it's really good at killing broadleaf weeds, and it's also really good about not damaging Bermuda grass. So in this case, you're not damaging Bermuda grass because you're doing it in a mulch bed. So why you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like more of like a boutique type product. Like, why use this? Like it's like using Celsius to kill weeds in a driveway crack or something. I mean, you could, but stuff's not cheap. So why use this for something for a case? You're kind of, in my opinion, kind of like wasting product. I personally wouldn't if it were me, but it's your call. But to answer your question, yes, that could work. Either one of those could work. But I would just honestly just use glyphosate. It's cheaper. Next up is Dalen Krause. He says, hey, Ron, I think Owlet has the names wrong on Scarifier and Dethatcher. I feel like Scarifier would be scouring the ground. Dude, man, don't get me started. I've spoken to Owlet about, you want to see something funny? Okay, so this is, let's go here. This is their Scarifier, right? So you look at how the machine looks. It's like a, plastic with like the spring-loaded fingers. And if we go over here now to their Pro mowers, like say the Revolution, and then we look up Turf Rake, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, except this trim over here they call it a Turf Rake, and on the other one they call it a Scarifier. So, yeah. If you ask the folks at Owlet, a dethatcher is more aggressive than scarification or turf raking. So yeah, but I agree with you. I agree that they are not consistent. And I've actually told who I speak to, I think Roland. I spoke to Roland about this. I said, dude, you're the same company. Why for like the professional mowers it's one thing, and then for the homeowner mowers is another thing. I said, you guys should totally change it. And like, yeah, I think you would partly it is they have labels made already, and they'd have to perhaps go through and reprint a bunch of labels, whatever. So they just leave it the way it is. But it's like the same piece of equipment with different names, which whatever. Okay, next up is D Mart. He says, came across one of your YouTube shorts where someone was asked if they could real mow St. Augustine. Your reaction was great. Had to mention there's a video on YouTube of someone doing it after using PGR. Your opinion? I mean, so listen, in life, there's a lot of things you can do, but doesn't necessarily mean they are like the best thing to do. Like, can you real mow turf type tall fescue? Technically you could, but is it the best way to take care of turf type tall fescue? No, it's not. Like, a rotary mower is a better choice. So can you real mow St. Augustine? Yes, there are people that have done it. And a couple of pictures I've seen, it actually looks pretty decent. But St. Augustine typically benefits from taller heights of cut, taller than what most real mowers will do. But it's your lawn. You're welcome to do whatever you want to do. I would not. Go look at Alan's lawn. Look at Lawn Care Now, Alan's lawn. He has probably one of the most well-known St. Augustine lawns, and he cuts it with a rotary mower. And most people that have St. Augustine lawns that real mow them, or so that's real mower. So you got me. See what you got me doing? That mow them. They use rotary mowers on them. So just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean it's the best tool for the job. You can rotary mow Bermuda at 1 inch, but it's not the best tool for the job. The better tool for the job for rotary mowing, for mowing Bermuda at an inch is a reel mower. I mean, the best mower for mowing Bermuda, period, is a reel mower. But I mean, not everyone wants to do one, and I get it. So can you? Yes. Would I recommend it? No. And just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean that it's like the best thing to do. But if you want a reel mower, you're St. Augustine, man. If you like it, I love it. Go for it. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever floats your boat. All right, next up, we have BL1980. Says, hey, Ron, no rain in 2 weeks and probably not for another week. I have irrigation, but the grass color is very pale. Any tricks? What's your watering schedule? Yeah, so it sounds like your lawn is just suffering from heat stress, which, keep in mind, irrigation is really designed to help supplement rainfall. Like very few lawns by themselves can look great from just strictly irrigation. I mean, maybe, most, I'm going to stand by that. Most lawns, if all you do is just run an irrigation cycle on them, they're gonna look decent. But then if you look at how they look after like a nice heavy rain, they're gonna look even better. So what you're probably seeing is just like lack of water. So you could try increasing the length of your irrigation cycles. That will likely help. My watering schedule has been 3 times a week this season. I've been playing with different approaches. I'm probably gonna back that off here probably the next week or so and just go down to 2 days a week. So currently my irrigation is set to Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when it runs, and that's it. But again, yeah, when it comes to watering, I try to be careful about like telling you, water for this long, because there's so many factors. Like how hot is it where you are? Like, what is the slope of your lawn? If you have a really sloped lawn, you can't water as long as a lawn that is flat. What is the water pressure where you are? Because if I say, hey, I run my irrigation for a 20-minute cycle per zone, that means nothing to you if your water pressure is substantially higher or substantially lower than my lawn. So watering is such a specific thing to the lawn you're dealing with that it's hard to give general guidance. Some guidance you can have that does hold fairly well is about 1 inch of water per week is what Bermuda needs to look good. But then after that, outside of starting with 1 inch of water per week as a starting point, let your eyes be your guide. So if you're looking at your lawn, you're watering it, hey, it's hot this time of year, and I'm starting to see the lawn kind of get grayish. So it's meaning it's starting to like lose its color. In that case, hey, I'm not getting any rainfall. I need to increase the watering a little bit, maybe, 3, 4, 5 minutes per zone, and then do that for a week and observe again and say, it looks like it's getting better. So I can stay here, or you might try increasing it or whatever. You have to, when it comes to watering, you have to play with it a bit to find out what your particular lawn likes. And that also changes based on how much rainfall you're getting and the time of year. Because temperature is a pretty big influence as far as how effective, like how much water stays on the lawn, or how much moisture stays in the soil. All right, BL, so hopefully that helps you. Lando to Commando says, army worms are everywhere in Locust Grove, Georgia right now. Besides acelepryn, too expensive, what can we do? Acelepryn, that's what I would do. I would just go out and get acelepryn. That's what I would use for it. I mean, acelepryn, you say it's expensive, but it's far cheaper than resodding. So, I mean, you look at, to your point, you say that acelepryn's pricey, which I get it. I mean, get the liquid. The liquid's less expensive than the granular. And they cover about the same. So if you go to shop and then in fungicide insecticide, bottle of acelepryn in liquid form is $124.99. This covers 22,000 square feet. And while that might seem expensive, this is going to take care of the problem with armyworms in your lawn. And $125 is far, 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 far cheaper than resodding your lawn. So you look at it that way. That's what I'm just gonna tell you. Acelepryn. That's what I would stick with. It's like you could just do nothing. You could just let them destroy your lawn. But it's not that much when it comes to when you think about what you get and the problem that it's solving. It's a bargain. It's a bargain compared to the alternatives. Lando. So acelepryn is what I would say. Let's see. Progression Decimal says, have you found any main difference between prodiamine, dimension, or ditherapyr in Bermuda, or will both accomplish exactly the same result? Granular for both, by the way. Prodiamine tends to last a bit longer, I find, than dimension. Dimension has the advantage that if you use it in the spring as your spring pre-emergent, it can control young crabgrass. So as far as a pre-emergent that has the ability to have like some small post-emergent control of crabgrass, dimension or dithiopyr has that, whereas prodiamine does not. So it depends on the problem you're trying to solve. Both of them will work well. They're both excellent products. Prodiamine tends to last a little bit longer. Dimension can control young crabgrass. So either one can work well. If I had a choice, I would say Dimension is an excellent choice for a spring pre-emergent. Prodiamine is a better choice for a fall pre-emergent, but you can use them either way you want. But if you think about it, like crabgrass begins to grow in the springtime, so Dimension is a better fit for a spring pre-emergent than, if you only have those two at your disposal, then I would use Dimension in the spring and Prodiamine in the fall. So, and for the reasons that I said, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see here. What up, Doe says, what up, Doe Ron? This is your lawn care hype man from Detroit. I appreciate all the help and advice. I'm trying to read it how he's probably saying it. I appreciate all the advice you give your viewers and love the lawn care channel. Keep up the great work. 100%. That's probably how you would say it, right? I appreciate it. What up, Doe? Thank you for the love and support and for coming to hang out. It really does mean a lot. Gary Ingersoll says, what are your thoughts on a drag mat? I use it to break up aeration clumps, leveling, and as a dry marker eraser turns blackburn lawn from fire to brown instantly. I think they're great. If you have a way to drag one to pull them, like if you've got like a little, not like a four-wheeler, like a little lawn tractor to be able to pull them, then yeah, I think they're great. I don't have one because I don't have a way to really pull it. And using it by hand or by pulling it behind you is kind of not fun. So yeah, I think they're a great tool. As far as part of leveling, great. As far as breaking up aeration clumps, good job, great. As far as getting rid of like clumps of grass in the lawn after a heavy rain, also good for that too. Yeah, I think they're a great tool to have. If you got an easy way to use it, great tool to have in your arsenal. Dan Lynch says, what's the best preventative for armyworms? I put out Caravan G in May and Headway in June. There have been several supports of armyworm into my neighborhood. What should I apply, if anything? Acelloprin. So acelloprin is, as far as what I just showed here, Dan, acelloprin is going to take care of your grubs, bluegrass weevils, and pretty much any kind of turf caterpillar. So sod webworms, armyworms, any kind of turf caterpillar, acelloprin is going to be your jam, is going to be your bet. So I would highly, highly recommend this as your option for your insecticide for the August timeframe. It's the reason why we recommend it in our, if you look at the pinned comment and our month-by-month application calendar, acelloprin is what we recommend. So this is what you're going to want to go with. If you want liquid, go with acelloprin SC. If you want granular, go with acelloprin G. Both of these cover pretty much the same amount of square footage. So it doesn't really matter. It's really your preference. I typically use acelloprin SC because it's just more convenient and easier for me to spray liquids and have to go out there and do my granular. Normally I can do other stuff in the tank along with that. Like I'm going to do like if I'm doing a fungicide app, I could do it with it. If I'm doing if I want to put out, like say some release 0, I can put some of that in the tank along with acelloprin. So either one will work well, but in your case, to prevent armyworms or to prevent and also get rid of them, acelloprin is what I'd recommend, Dan. So there you go. I sent you a link to it in the chat. If you need anything else, do let me know. Caravan is not going to do a lot or do anything. I don't think Caravan is even labeled to control armyworms. I don't believe so. Check the label, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Whereas acelloprin is. Like acelloprin takes care of, it controls everything that the insecticide that's in Caravan controls and more. And it's better for from an environmental standpoint, it's a better product. Like it doesn't harm, or it's less harmful, you say, to pollinators and invertebrates like earthworms. So as far as like a better product, a more eco-friendly product that's also more effective, you're going to be hard pressed to do better than acelloprin. So that's what I would go with. Okay, Blossy Malonis says, do you ever go on vacation during the summer? And if so, do you manage the mowing? Man, I go on vacation every couple of days when I mow my lawn. Every day when I mow my lawn is vacation. But no, seriously, when I have to travel, like when I had to go to the World Championships for this summer for martial arts, that was a long weekend. So the grass just grows a little bit more then. But I mean, I'm typically not gone more than a few days to where when I come back, I can just do my mow and just kind of pick up where I left off. So long and short of it is, if your lawn gets overgrown because you're out of town, Just your choices are: one, you can go back to your kind of cut you had before, but you are going to lose a bunch of color if you take that approach. Or over the course of a couple of weeks, you can slowly step the lawn back down to the height of cut that you're at. So either approach will work. One is going to keep the lawn greener as you do it, but it's going to take longer. The other one's going to be faster, but the lawn's going to look ugly for a week or two as it greens back up again. So yeah, I go on vacation every time I mow, man. I don't I enjoy work, and I enjoy mowing my grass. So I don't really travel that much. I'm actually, believe it or not, even though I seem pretty cool on the internet, I'm actually pretty boring in person. I don't, like I told, ask anyone that's actually met me in real life if you're at the turf park party when it was like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm not like the life of the party. I'm pretty basic that way. All right, Albert Moore is up next. He says, "Hey Ron, Bermuda sod was installed 2 months ago. Weed killer and fall pre-emergent will be okay." 2 months ago. Let's give it 3 months, Albert. So yes, you should be fine, because by the time it's time for you to do pre-emergent, which will be in September, you'll be at 3 months, and in that case, you'd be fine. As far as post-emergent herbicides, if you are spot spraying, that would be okay. I would avoid blanket sprays. I really would. And in most cases, it's not really necessary. So if you're just going to be spot spraying weeds here and there, that would be okay. And then pre-emergent in September, you'll be at the 3-4 month point at that time. You'd be okay then too. So, yep, no issues there. Casey Baker says, "I sprayed Bermuda in my yard 2 months ago. I have nutsedge growing in a portion of the sprigged area. Is it good to go ahead and apply certainty?" Yeah, if you're going to spot spray the area with a nutsedge, no problem at all. Use a bit of surfactant with it for best results, but yeah, that's no problem at all, Casey. That should be just fine. Vahid Navi says, "What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. What's going on, Vahid?" And then Tom V says, "Hey, Ron, I just bought 25 pounds of perennial ryegrass to overseed my KBG front yard. Got some busy weeks ahead to get it all prepped. Tips to ensure seed to soil contact. Cheers." Yeah, so if you want to do something to help thin out the lawn gently, turf raking is a great way to do it. So turf raking / scarification is a good way to help remove dead material, loose material, to thin out that lawn just a little bit, to help improve that seed to soil contact, help more sunlight to reach the soil, which can help with germination. That is what I'd recommend. Just a couple of rounds of that should set you up pretty well for your seeding project. That's what I would do, Tom. Not super hard. Yeah, that's the big thing. And then water it and wait. Water and wait. That would be the plan. That would be the plan. All right. We should plan to dethatch and then aerate and then seed. Okay. So I would say turf rake and then aerate and then seed, but your call. If you want to dethatch, you can dethatch, but I think that's not really necessary for most lawns. Okay. Joe Cox says, "Hello again. What's your thoughts on Stay Green liquid lawn aerator?" I am not a fan of liquid aeration products, Joe, because I think, in my opinion, I feel like they overpromise and underdeliver, because to aerate a lawn properly with the goal of relieving compaction, like a liquid product, while it can help increase microbial activity, which can help break down thatch, and I guess you could say that's kind of like a mild type of aeration, it's not what most people are thinking about when they think about aerating a lawn. The best way to aerate a lawn is to use some kind of a mechanical machine to do it. So either solid tine aeration, which is not the best, or even better is core aeration, where you're literally punching holes and removing cores of soil from the lawn. That is a better way to aerate your lawn. Like the liquid stuff, you can do that on top of using a mechanical, like doing a proper core aeration, but I mean, it's not, they're not even in the same universe. So calling a liquid aeration, like speaking about a liquid aeration product in the same breath as mechanical aeration is not, it's borderline disingenuous. They don't do the same things. So I would either do it yourself or pay a service to do it. You're gonna be a lot happier with the results you're gonna get from actually core aerating your lawn with a machine versus using a liquid product. Progression Decibel says, "Ron, to clarify from my Fusillade, 2 questions. So in Bermuda, would speed zone to kill goosegrass be more appropriate? And 2, I meant landscape beds with weeds as much as mulch, as in mulch beds with ornamentals. I still don't understand." So Okay, let me read this again. You have landscape beds with weeds, as in mulch beds with ornamentals and flower. Oh, okay, yeah, fusel. Yeah, okay. In that case, fusilade. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, you're right. Because you're right. Fusilade is um there's a lot of ornamentals that you can that do tolerate fusilade just fine. So yeah, in that case, yes, yeah, you are. I stand corrected. If you have you got ornamentals and flowers. Again, read the label because there's a long list of plants or ornamentals that fusilade is labeled to be okay for. So make sure the ones that you're going to be spraying it on that they're on that list. But yes, if that's what you want to go with, that would be okay. As far as speed zone to kill goosegrass, you'd have to try it and see, man. I'm not sure how effective it would be. If it's labeled to control it, you could give that a shot. But I've never tested it myself to know how well it would work. But yeah, it's worth a shot if you're dealing with that in your lawn. Okay, next up is fresh apples. Is when are you going to put down your fertilizer? I already did, like pretty much beginning of the month, and the beginning of the month. My granular fertilizer goes down, and then my liquids go down every 2 weeks. So like I've already done August's granular fertilizer application. Is it safe to walk barefoot on the lawn, especially with fertilizer? Also, are dogs safe when walking in the grass with fertilizer? Yeah, so here's what I would tell you, fresh apples. Apply the fertilizer, water it in, allow the lawn to dry, and then you're good to go out and use the lawn however you want to go use it. That would be okay. Kind of like when it comes to any product that's designed to get in the soil, apply it, water it in. Once the lawn dries, then you can resume using it. Madam says, hello, what's going on, Madam? And then TR Play says, isn't an armor invasion simply a free natural habitat reset? That's one way of looking at it. Most people that get eaten up by army worms would not agree, but I guess that's a silver lining to having an army worm infestation, yes. But I think most people don't want their habitat reset done that way. Let's see here. Miguel Molano, he says, hey Ron, Bermuda grass is thriving, but it has some crabgrass, goosegrass, Dallas grass, and spotted spurge. Would it be okay to spray Celsius, Accelerate, and Sedgehammer and sulfentrazone? That's quite the concoction. Why the Sedgehammer? I don't know. I'm trying to see out of that list. Sedgehammer, I don't think you would need that for any of those. It's to answer your question, like Celsius, the only ones I'd really consider there are Celsius and depending on the maturity of the crabgrass, Accelerate, which is like a quinclorac product, I think. So yeah, those two, yes. The other ones, I'm not sure what you're going to accomplish because between Celsius and quinclorac, you should be able to handle most of those. I guess maybe unless sulfentrazone is labeled for goosegrass. I don't believe that it was, but maybe it is. Dallas grass, dig it out. Dallas, dig it out. Although also something else you could do is recognition. So Syngenta's released. They sent me some documentation on Dallas grass of using recognition against Dallas grass this time of year. It takes a couple of apps, but there can be some effectiveness with that approach. But again, I would still tell you just to dig it out, man. Most products, like the one product that's really good at killing Dallas grass, you can't use or you're not supposed to use on residential lawns anymore. So, yeah. So I would pare that list down. It sounds like you're spraying pretty much everything you got in your garage, which not really necessary. Like limit your herbicide use. Like Celsius will take care of if you have young crabgrass, it'll do that. It'll take care of spurge, and if you got more mature crabgrass, the quinclorac product. The other ones, another one's not so much. All right. D-Mar says, you are not born, Ron. You would be the life of the lawn party. Okay, if you say so. And then next up we have Rad. He says, what are your thoughts about using propiconazole at the time of seeding? If it's necessary, sure. If you got a disease problem in your lawn, then yeah. But as far as propiconazole as part of a seeding project, I wouldn't go out and apply fungicides just because. Like there should be fungicides are best used to prevent problems, or if you're trying to control an existing issue that you're dealing with in your lawn. But it's not something you just want to just willy-nilly just put on your lawn just because. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of that. Kind of like herbicides. You really use herbicides as needed. Like some people will ask me, when it comes to Celsius, how often can I use it? I'm like, really only as often as you need to. Like if you're doing it right, you shouldn't be needing to use it all the time. It should be like a spot spray here and there. It shouldn't be something you're using. It shouldn't be like a core staple of your lawn care program, if that makes sense. And fungicides really are the same way. Sydney Massey, he says, hopefully I will send our picture and we'll lead your feedback. And thanks for helping so many people. Cool. Thanks so much, Sydney. Speaking of pictures, someone got some new equipment. I think his name was Molnar, sent me a picture of his new equipment. I'm not sure if he was in the live stream, but he sent me his new mower. And I got to tell you, that's a nice whip. So that's clean right there. That's clean. He's not a real mower, but you gotta respect that. It's a nice piece of equipment. And I promised him I would show it on the live stream. So I am a man of my word. So congrats on the new hotness. It's red and black, bulldog colors, good choice. And mow in good health. So I didn't want the live stream to end without showing off your equipment. So thanks for sending me that picture. All right, John Smith says, hey, Ron, I thought I missed your podcast. Happy Friday, everyone. Here goes everything tomorrow. Here goes scarifying tomorrow if the rain holds up. Cool, man. Well, enjoy it. Have fun with it. Should be good. Lowe says, what's the difference between a dethatch and a turf rake? I spoke about this earlier, Lowe, but I'll go through it really quickly. Dethatching is a lot more aggressive than turf raking. Dethatching, you're more tearing and ripping at the turf, which is frankly more aggressive than most lawns need, versus turf raking. If you look at this is that's not a turf rake. That is not a turf rake. That's a dethatcher. This is a turf rake slash scarifier. So this is far less aggressive to the lawn than where was I? Than this. Like this is far more aggressive than a turf rake. So for most lawns, I don't recommend dethatching. I recommend verticutting or a couple rounds of turf raking because it accomplishes the result in a way that is less stressful to the turf. All right, guys and gals, I think on that bombshell, we have run out of questions, out of comments, out of concerns for the evening. So I will cue the outro music. So guys, gals, the pinned comment shows the product application calendar for the month of August. I encourage you guys to take a look at that. Be sure to get out there, keep up with your mowing, keep up with your fertilization, enjoy the process of creating an amazing lawn. And again, as always, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I believe Lee from Real Rollers will be on the live stream in one of the weeks coming up here to talk about the Turf Park Party and some other cool news that they have to share with you guys. And again, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your Friday evening to hang out with me and talk about grass. And again, if you're going to go out and do something fun on your lawn this weekend, have fun with it. Be safe out there, and I will see you guys next week. Have an amazing weekend. Take care.